when I came off the stage. I couldn't stop crying.
I tell you, if you can judge somebody by their kids, he grades high.
Oh my gosh, his family, they are just so personable. They're so sharp. You know, the whole family is just an amazing thing.
You're on the front page of FoxNews.com with your beer. Tell me what tell me about this beer. Hulk's got his beer out there.
Oh my gosh, it is so funny because last night when I said we're going to bring America back together, one real American at a time, the theme for the beer is bringing America back together one beer at a time. Because when I saw that open lane where Bud Light crashed and burned with their marketing plan, I saw, oh my gosh, this is Middle America, this is NASCAR Country Western, Purple Mountains Majesty, everything Americana, you know. And I knew how competitive the beer market was, and that's what I do is I structure deals and I do merchandise and ancillary stuff, done it my whole life. And so when I saw this open lane, I said, America is waiting for the right beer to come along. And I said, this beer is bigger than politics.
Right.
Because the Democrats
you want to get people together.
Yeah, the Republicans and Democrats don't talk.
Right.
And if I can get people talking over a beer, it doesn't matter the color of your skin, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter your religion, whether you're Democrat or Republican, we can bring real Americans back together one beer at a time.
And how do we get it?
Oh, my gosh, you can find it anywhere.
Now it's a tribute. Okay, great. The other thing is you're in unbelievable shape. It's an inspiration. 71 years old. Everybody was talking about it. So you ripped your shirt off, and I'm like, this guy is ready to wrestle still. Great to see you, Hulk. Thanks for the quality time.
Thank you.
And I'll catch up to you again.
Oh, thank you, brother. I'm a big fan. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for listening. Brian Kilmeade from Milwaukee. This is the Brian Kilmeade Show.
It's common knowledge that after age 30, our metabolism changes. We have less energy and gain weight easier. There's a way to feel better, not in years or months, but sometimes in just days.
I'm Chuck Norris. I tried everything. Working with a team of health experts, we came up with Morning Kick. Morning Kick is a revolutionary new formula that combines all my favorite supplements into one daily drink.
Morning Kick has probiotics to help you lose weight, prebiotics for digestion, superfoods for muscles and joints, and powerful anti-aging supplements. It'll help you feel youthful, energized, and helps manage stress.
I look and feel better than I have in years.
Go to roundhouseprovisions.com, use code BODY, or text BODY to 511-511 and claim 40% off. Roundhouseprovisions.com, code BODY.
Every purchase comes with our 90-day money-back guarantee. You could be feeling these changes within just a couple of days.
Text BODY to 511-511.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by Roundhouse Provisions.
The doctor's office that mixed up your files has your Social Security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info and last 3 addresses. Your info is in endless places that could accidentally expose your info to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity's stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code CLAY at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Did you know your life insurance is an asset you can sell? I'm Jay Jackson, CEO of Abacus Life. For almost 20 years, Abacus has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors just like you. And at AbacusPays.com, we've created a free policy value calculator so you can find out the worth of your policy in just seconds. There are no fees and no obligations. Get real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus. Learn more at AbacusPays.com.
WPHT, WPHT-HD, WOGL HD3 Philadelphia. From the Cherry Hill Volvo Studios, where relationships matter. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. The announcement came this afternoon. President Biden is dropping his bid for re-election amid pressure from top Democrats. Correspondent Nancy Cordes says he explained in a letter from his home in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, where he's been recovering from COVID.
I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. The announcement threw the race into disarray. No sitting American president has dropped out of a campaign so late in the election cycle. In a subsequent post, Biden endorsed his vice president, Kamala Harris.
We're told the president has spoken to a number of lawmakers, governors, and supporters, and Harris has spent the afternoon calling members of Congress. Delaware's Democratic Senator Chris Coons tells CBS News.
Vice President Harris has an incredible legacy of success and accomplishment as a senator and vice president. I do not expect a serious challenge to her nomination, but let's let that work itself out in the coming weeks.
While praising President Biden for dropping out, former President Obama stopped short of endorsing Harris. Correspondent Robert Costa has spoken with former President Trump.
He is still going to run a campaign against the Biden administration. When I asked him, are you willing and ready to debate Vice President Harris? He said he is not at this moment because he is not sure yet whether she will ultimately emerge as the Democratic nominee.
CBS's Margaret Brennan says Mr. Biden's exit from the race reshapes the contest.
We no longer have an 81-year-old Democrat running against a 78-year-old Republican. You have a 59-year-old woman, the first woman of color. That changes. That might excite some of those young voters that Democrats were concerned about because they saw that lack of energy and enthusiasm for Joe Biden.
Not all Democratic voters are pleased with the president's move.
I'm disappointed because I felt like he was pushed out, and I really felt like the Democrats should have stood behind him.
I think it's a good decision. I think they'll be better suited by some new blood that would come to the Democratic Party.
Kamala Harris has 107 days to consolidate support from Democrats, establish herself as a national leader, and make the case against a second Trump administration. She must also choose her own number two. CBS's Weijia Zhang is in Washington.
Names have already started to surface, including Democratic governors who could appeal to swing state voters. Roy Cooper of North Carolina.
North Carolina welcomes back Vice President Kamala Harris.
Pennsylvania's Josh Shapiro and Andy Beshear of Kentucky.
This is CBS News.
Dr. Marty's Nature's Blend is freeze-dried dog food. Save up to 54% off your first order, plus a free bag of Cod Krispies. They're wild-caught cod skin treats. Go to drmartypets.com/dogs.
WPHT, WPHT HD, WOGL HD3 Philadelphia. From the Cherry Hill Volvo Studios, where relationships matter. Always live on the free Odyssey app. Live and local with Matt Rooney on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
I won't bury the lead for you all. Here's the lesson to take out of tonight's show. 3 hours condensed into just one little soundbite. I can't go on vacation. Not allowed to do it, producer Phil.
Yeah, I don't think you are. Especially what's been going on the last 24 hours.
I ended up having to go out of town last weekend to take care of some family business. Everyone's okay. Thank you for asking. And I thought it was innocent enough because we're heading into the Republican National Convention. All the news is next week. We weren't expecting Trump's vice presidential selection until the actual convention was underway. I foolishly thought it was safe to head out of town. And then someone, I'm not convinced we still know who, attempted to kill President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. More on that as the show progresses. And then I took a few days down the shore this week, which is not the reason why I'm wearing my Fun Guy shirt. Regular viewers of the Matt Rooney Show know that I often cloak my man bod in these delightfully colorful, fun T-shirts.
It is quite colorful today.
It is.
Matt.
It's blinding.
It really is.
It's radiant.
It would
match my personality.
It would have been perfect at the Christopher Cross show I saw last week.
It would have been. I would have lent it to you.
Yeah, there you go.
You're a little taller than I am,
yes,
so I don't know if it would have worked.
Little.
But you can tell by the tan. I actually, for an Irishman, I'm about as brown as you can get. I'm about as brown as you can get today. So I take a few days down the shore, and then lo and behold, I'm packing up, which everyone who has young children knows, packing up to leave a beach vacation with small kids. I mean, it's easier to evacuate from Saigon after the fall of Vietnam. Biden drops out. And Rich Zeoli, I'm assuming, has won some money from many side bets because he's been calling this one for not weeks, but I think months now, that Joe Biden would eventually exit the race, that this was the plan all along. Whether it was the plan all along, I don't know. But Democrats tonight find themselves in a state of chaos, and we are all here for it on 1210 WPHT. Let's go over some ground rules before we get tonight's program started. 855-839-1210 is the number here at the Matt Rooney Show, should you wish to call in and participate, though for reasons that I'm going to illustrate in a moment. I'm always bad with the phone, so if I don't get to you tonight, do not take it personally. You never should take it personally. But we've got a very busy program, so you got to make it good if we're going to get you on air. I'm setting the bar high at the top of the program here. If you want to watch as well as listen to tonight's show and confirm that I am indeed as handsome as I sound, you can go to YouTube, youtube.com/@1210 WPHT, where you can give us a like if you are generous, and I would suspect you are because you're a patron of 1210 WPHT. You have a big part. You love your country, and you want people that are fighting for your country to do well, so you want to help us out. Give us a like. You can also participate in the comment section, which is often salty, regularly interesting. Suze loves Jeffy saying, "Looking good, Matt." Aren't you sweet? I appreciate that. I feel good tonight. We're living in interesting times, right? And sometimes it'd be nice to not live in interesting times. I'm sure many of you have felt that way in recent days. Could things be a little bit easier? Could I get 1 week without a dramatic development, which not only threatens my republic, my family, my community, and doesn't leave my stomach in knots? Wouldn't that be nice? But that's just not the way that it works. That's just not the way that it works. We all have to do the best we can with the time that is given to us. I'll quote producer Phil, one of my favorite philosophers, Gandalf the Grey, from Lord of the Rings, which, by the way, there's a Politico article, which we probably won't get to tonight, so I'll just say it at the top. Apparently, J.D. Vance,
yes,
future Vice President Vance, hopefully, a huge Lord of the Rings nerd.
There's nothing wrong with Lord of the Rings. So,
there's nothing wrong with Lord of the Rings, of course.
It's a great trilogy. I mean, I read it when I was a kid. So.
I'm a fan.
I love it.
I remember when I'm going to date some of you here. Apologies in advance. I was in high school when Peter Jackson's Fellowship of the Ring came out.
I was older than that.
Just deal with it, Phil.
Since I'm older than you.
Just deal with it, Phil. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not trying to be cruel. It just happens sometimes, but...
Yes, I'm working your show on my wedding anniversary, you know?
So I was going to say that. We got more breaking news tonight. That's how dedicated you are to this station.
And I'll be here tomorrow morning for Kale & Company. Yes, I will.
Yes. Yeah, assuming he's not dealing with the divorce papers he gets served with.
I think we're okay. We had a really nice dinner last night. We saw a movie today, so I think we're good.
You should have brought her in, and I would have sang Moon River or something like that to try to... We'd lose all our listeners.
Yes,
but...
that we definitely would do.
So I remember going and seeing it in high school, and I mean, look, anybody that's read Tolkien, there's definitely some politics in there, particularly since Tolkien was in World War II, and his worldview was very much shaped by the horrors of that war. Apparently, J.D. Vance says that his conservative politics has very much been influenced by the writings of Tolkien, and also C.S. Lewis, for all you Narnia aficionados out there. So I'll give you a Gandalf quote because it's probably appropriate given who our vice presidential nominee is. Frodo says to Gandalf, "I wish it need not have happened in my time." And they're obviously talking about the evil wizard and all the bad stuff going down. And Gandalf says, "So do I, and so do all who live to see such times. But this is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do at the time that is given to us." This was never going to be easy, folks. Some of you, and I tried to caution you in recent days over on X and certainly on this program, yes, Creepy Joe, Senile Joe, Poopy Pants Biden, whatever you called him, whatever derisive moniker you preferred, it was tempting to assume that he was going to continue to be the nominee and we were going to roll him and Donald Trump was going to win Pennsylvania by 10 points and it was going to be a walk relative to some of the other recent presidential elections we've all lived through and in some cases suffered through. But that's never how it was going to happen because Donald Trump represents and continues to represent today an existential threat to the establishment in this country, the military-industrial complex, the deep state, all of the bad guys and gals and those that can't even decide on what their gender is who threaten our peace and prosperity for their own gain. They were never going to let him win in a walk. And as a New Jersey Republican, I have unique perspective on this because we've had this happen to us before. Some may remember Rush Limbaugh used to call him the Torch, Bob Torricelli, another corrupt New Jersey U.S. Senator. He was corrupt before Bob Menendez was corrupt, who got embroiled in an ethics scandal, dropped off the ballot, and then the New Jersey Supreme Court let Democrats in the Garden State plug in Frank Lautenberg at the last moment and were able to hold on to that Senate seat. So this is what they do. They don't play by the Queensberry rules. They play to win. And so we have to play to win by being tougher, by being stronger. Look, if Donald Trump can take a bullet to the ear, get up, yell, fight, 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 walk off the stage under his own power, and then go and do an entire convention, and then immediately return to a rally up in Michigan without batting an eye, all in the span of just a few days, I think you can get off your keister and knock some doors and make some phone calls and engage this election. I know the media is out there today, and I'm sure you've seen some of these headlines. It's absolutely insane. And you knew this was going to happen. They're talking about how courageous Joe is for leaving the race, how brave he is, what a great American he is for making the brave decision to turn away from the presidency and to give Democrats a fighting chance. There's actually something from the LA Times today. Biden's decision to withdraw from the race is very courageous. They came right out and said it. I guess the guy who got shot in the ear isn't courageous and then continued to fight for America, continued to fight for his supporters, didn't run off the stage like a coward. And Trump has said this himself in the hours and days following that attempted assassination. Did you notice how none of his supporters ran? If that was an audience full of pajama-wearing soy boys, producer Phil, they would have been running for the exits. Heck, I don't know what I would have done in that situation. Have you ever heard an assault rifle fired?
No.
It's scary. It's scary stuff. And they stood, and I'll tell you why they stayed there. And Trump pointed this out. They stayed because he is their guy, and they were worried about him. There is a level of connection with this candidate and his supporters, the likes of which we have not seen in modern American history. I don't know if Reagan had this connection with his supporters. So we have a ton to dissect on tonight's program. As ever, I say this every week. I don't know how much we're going to get to, but I'm going to do my damnedest because I am dedicated to giving you the best possible conservative radio that you can find anywhere on the dial, the interwebs, podcasts, wherever, you name it, however you consume it. I want to be top of the heap. We've also got some guests tonight. In addition to all the topics we need to cover, we want to go to people who know what they're talking about and can give us, as the kids would say, Phil, the straight dope. You know, we don't want it filtered. We want the truth, and we want what's happening out there undiluted. We'll be joined in our second hour, the 8 o'clock hour, by Trump campaign deputy comms director Carolyn Sunshine, who probably has the best possible name for a comms director I've ever heard in all my years of following this nonsense. Carolyn Sunshine. It's perfect. I have to ask her if that's her real name. We'll also be joined by someone who very much lives up to their former rank. Veterans for Trump chair, Jessie Jane Duff. She was a gunnery sergeant for the U.S. Marine Corps. I've talked to her before on 1210. She's a Spitfire. I am looking forward to that one. I have to make sure that I'm adequately caffeinated before she joins us to get more campaign perspective. And then in our final hour, the 9 o'clock hour, two of my faves are going to be on here, regular pundits on the Matt Rooney Show, guys that know what they're talking about and can express it in clear and concise terms. That's why we turn to them. National GOP consultant and confirmed Jersey Shore native Tom Szymanski will join us alongside a guy who knows how to turn a phrase, PR expert, former Penn State professor, another South Jerseyan, Dan Cerrucci. We're going to panel it up here in the 9 o'clock hour, run through the convention, the latest on the post-assassination investigation, where Democrats go from here. And I also want to talk to Tom specifically, Phil, because Tom's a guy that's worked on House races. He's worked on a high-profile Senate race. He's worked on a gubernatorial race. I want to dig into the mechanics of where Democrats go from here, because it's not as simple as Joe Biden or any other senior Democrat placing a crown on cackling Kamala's head, and she then becomes the presidential nominee and has access to all of the resources of the Biden campaign as well as the Democrat National Committee, and that's that. We just move forward. It's very complicated. They not only have to make her the nominee, but there are also some campaign finance hurdles she has to clear. Long story short, it's not clear that it's all her money. I think there's something like $90 million that Biden has in the bank. Lawyers are going to make some money on this one if indeed the Democrat convention in Chicago turns into a fight, which I think it might. Consider this, Phil. Just today, Biden announces probably around 10 a.m.
Yeah,
that he's
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I say Biden announces
someone made an announcement or posted something that said something.
Who knows if he even knows where he is, right?
Right.
They might have him propped up in a beach chair somewhere down in Delaware.
Or maybe he was asleep when it went down. I don't know.
They probably handed him a seashell and told him it was a cell phone. Mr. President, give us
by the way, we made a notice.
My assumption is that Jill got together with some advisors and they came up with this statement, first announcing that he wasn't going to run for president, indicating in that announcement that he is going to remain as president, which if it seems counterintuitive, it is. And then endorsing Kamala Harris in a post on social media. You then have the Clintons, who have never done anything without first thinking what is best for the Clintons. When they say political animal, when you look that up in the encyclopedia, if you can still find one, dust it off on your shelf, take a look at it, you'll see the Clintons' pictures under political animals. They come out and they endorse Kamala. So there must be something in it for the Hill Dog and for Bill. But then Obama and AOC and a number of other Democrats remain noncommittal, suggesting there's a process, signaling that we should go to a contested convention. And I've heard this at the state level here in our own region. For example, Leroy Jones, he's chairman of the Democrats in New Jersey, put out a Weasley constructed press release saying, well, the New Jersey Democrat Party will support Kamala Harris ... if she is the nominee. So what does that tell you? I think there's the distinct possibility that the Democrat 2024 convention in Chicago makes Democrats' 1968 convention in Chicago look like Disney on ice. I'm serious. This could be hideously ugly for them. It couldn't happen to nicer people. But there is peril in all of this for Republicans. We obviously love to see bad people having a rough time. And the leadership of the Democrat Party, which is woefully out of touch with the American people, they have not had a solid bowel movement now in a few weeks, not since that debate with Donald Trump when Joe Biden had to be led off stage. So, look, they're having a rough time, and very few are happy about this pass in which they found themselves, even if they wanted Biden off the ticket. But that does not mean, as I said at the top of the segment, that Republicans now have a cakewalk. Far from it. We're going to break down every angle tonight on the Matt Rooney Show. 855-839-1210 is the number. Let's take a break, fill our coffee mugs, strap ourselves in for 3 solid hours of the best conservative talk anywhere in the country here on 1210 WPHT. Back in a second.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Real Success. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at ourrealsuccess.com.
Do you want to learn how to make money flipping houses and acquiring rental properties right here in Philadelphia? We're offering a handful of motivated individuals the opportunity to attend our workshop right here in Philadelphia for free. That's right, we'll give you 2 free tickets when you text INVEST to 64,000. Philadelphia is the perfect market to flip houses and build rental income. Discover the simple steps developed by Joe Arias, one of real estate's greatest rags to riches stories. You'll learn to flip properties and secure rental properties without using your own money and in your spare time. Don't miss this opportunity. Come to a complimentary live 2-hour workshop next week right here in Philadelphia and learn how to start making money flipping homes and building long-term wealth with rental properties. To get 2 free tickets, text INVEST to 64,000. Text in the next 10 minutes, and registrants will also receive a free copy of our Funding for Deals guide. Text INVEST to 64,000 for 2 complimentary tickets. Text INVEST to 64,000.
When it comes to affordable term life insurance, everyone's whistling the Big Lou tune. If you're over 50, maybe a bit porky, or have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost about $200 a month. Even if you're not in perfect health, call Big Lou, because he specializes in finding big chunks of affordable term life insurance for just about everyone. Don't let diabetes or other health glitches keep you from owning $500,000 to $1 million or more of term life insurance. For affordable term life insurance, call Big Lou. Don't hesitate. Call 800-700-6898, 800-700-6898, or visit biglou.com.
Call Big Lou, don't hesitate, 800-700-6898. Call Big Lou, don't hesitate, 800-700-6898. Visit biglou.com.
Family & Company Jewelers on Route 70 in Marlton, New Jersey is known for being South Jersey's diamond destination and your trusted jeweler for quality, service, and price. Choose from the largest selection of engagement rings in the area or have their master jewelers create a one-of-a-kind ring just for your special day. Visit their showroom or shop online at FamilyJewelers.com.
Family & Company Jewelers, South Jersey's diamond destination.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online at hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation to determine the ED medication that's best for you, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and a range of treatment options, including trusted generic alternatives to the name brands, at up to 95% off. ED is personal, and at Hims, so is treating it. Just go to hims.com/joy and get connected to a licensed medical provider online for free, with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit. hims.com/joy.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed. Oh, yeah? Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy. Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Free speech lives here with Rich Zioli, afternoons 3 till 7. Talk Radio 1210, WPHT.
An indication as to how little confidence Democrats and never-Trumpers have in Kamala Harris. This is an idea that's circulating online, and I had to blink 3 times just to make sure that I wasn't hallucinating. Because again, it's been a busy few weeks. I've been on the beach for a number of days. I've had a few adult beverages, not tonight, but before tonight. It's possible I'm dehydrated.
That is possible.
It's entirely possible. It happens. It happens to the best of us. But Aaron Sorkin, who is best known for what? He's best known for works of fiction, right? This is not an ace political strategist. Aaron Sorkin is a playwright. He's a screenwriter. He's best known for The West Wing, which I never got into, but that's a story for another time. We don't have time for that tonight. We got to keep rolling here. He is floating the idea that Democrats should nominate Mitt Romney. Mittens, the Mittster, Utah senator who has decided not to run for re-election this year, voted for the second Trump impeachment. He thinks that Democrats should completely flip the script, go with Romney, hook him up with a viable vice president, and they'd win in a landslide. And I thought, okay, this is a screenwriter being a screenwriter, right? This is just a thought experiment, nothing to take seriously. Then Guy Benson, who's on Fox News quite regularly, says if Romney were their nominee, he could select another politician on the outs with the current GOP as his running mate, maybe someone a bit younger. I'm thinking perhaps a Paul Ryan type. I'd give that ticket a strong look, TBH. So there are some out there with either advanced TDS, less advanced but still fairly strong TDS. Trump derangement syndrome, by the way, for those of you that aren't medically fluent.
I think most people actually are in know about TDS at this point, and at least the abbreviation for it. I would think. You would think, wouldn't you?
I assume nothing.
I mean, well,
I assume nothing, Phil. You can't assume
that's
anything
true. That
anymore.
is true.
We're living in crazy town.
That is true. That is true. I have to dumb myself down a little bit here.
But what you are not hearing, do I hear something, by the way? I just said I was hallucinating, potentially, and it's always possible that I am. I thought I heard voices. Phil's just waving at me. Was that you were working on a greeting card for your wife since it's your anniversary and you're not home?
No, I'm working on tomorrow's show right now.
One of those internet cards. So no one has any idea how hard our producers work around here, by the way. Phil is running ragged on his anniversary. You at least hope if you have to work on your anniversary, you can kind of slough off a little bit. No such luck.
Not when you work for PHT.
Not at all. Not at all. 855-839-1210 is the number. You'd expect that if Kamala Harris was a good selection, you'd hear unanimous acclaim for this turn of events, but it's just not happening. And it's because they know that she's terrible. Her polling is miserable. There are plenty of publicly released surveys that suggest that she actually would perform worse against Donald Trump. I'm not so sure. And we'll talk about this with our panelists in the third hour of today's program. I do think that there were some young lefties who felt disconnected with Biden because they couldn't relate to a grandpa that was yakking in his own applesauce, and they might have considered staying home. It's possible that Kamala energizes them a little bit because, she may be an idiot, but she's extremely far left. And I know I just repeated myself there, but she's got enough bad ideas where she could motivate segments of the Democrat coalition that were otherwise disengaged. Is that enough to help win Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina? No, I don't think it is. But that's what clearly many Democrats are thinking tonight, particularly in the donor universe, the elites, those that put the pressure on Joe to get out of the race, and who are now conspiring to try to rig a convention to produce a candidate they think could win. So much for the party of democracy, right? And they constantly lecturing the rest of us on democracy, but they created a stilted nominating process for Joe Biden that he really couldn't lose, despite a lot of non-committed votes in certain states. Now that he's leaving the race and they've pressured the guy who was voted for by a majority of Democrats nationally, they're working to once again rig the democratic process to choose his successor. Hypocrisy? It's what Democrats absolutely do best. Sometimes it's all they do well. There's plenty of criticism coming in tonight, not just from the right, though. Do we have that RFK Jr. clip? This was not long before the show went live tonight, so you may not have heard it. RFK Jr. was up in Hyannisport, Kennedy compound in Massachusetts. And RFK Jr. laid into Kamala Harris with, you got to remember, you're talking about a man of the left here. RFK Jr. is no conservative. I think the only thing that really separates RFK Jr. from today's mainstream Democrat politicians is RFK Jr. genuinely loves the country. Not sure you can say that of a Kamala Harris, a Barack Obama, an AOC, radicals that think that America is a force for evil and therefore needs to be rebuilt in the image of their own ideas. But listen to RFK. It's a little bit long of a clip. It's like a minute 30. Republicans need to take notes because, the ads against Kamala Harris, assuming she is coronated as the Democrat nominee, are going to write themselves. Take it away, RFK.
I think, Kamala Harris is the party of war. She is, she's a war hawk. The Democratic Party was always the peace party. Kamala Harris is a war hawk on Ukraine. She's a war hawk on China. I think that we should be figuring out ways to coexist with the rest of the world as best we can. Of course, we need to protect our national security. I think she's not going to do anything about the national deficit. I've never heard her speak about the chronic disease epidemic, I think she's a product of the corporate control of our democracy. And she's one of the authors of, in terms of civil rights, she has one of the worst civil rights record of any public official. She's the author of one of the primary authors of the school to prison pipeline. She kept 5,000 people, despite a Supreme Court order that she released 5,000 prisoners of nonviolent drug crimes who were illegally in California jails. She kept them in there saying that we needed them for firefighting and for other public work services. And that's just a modern version of indentured servitude, a modern version of slavery. She was one of the two leading public officials in California, which now has the worst education system, 49th in education outcomes in the country. 50% of the homeless people in our country are in California, and she was behind those policies. I don't think she has a good, I don't think, in terms of the traditional democratic principles, I don't think she has a credible record.
There you go. There you go. And I mentioned before we played that clip from today's RFK Jr. press conference that I think that Kamala might have the ability to motivate some Democratic voters who were thinking of just not voting. Some of them made that decision back in 2016 because they're sane and they couldn't swallow the Hillary pill. Maybe was going to happen again at this time. She may motivate some of them. But there also might be some Democrats who are turned off by Kamala's record. And I'm not even talking about the stuff that's obvious to you and I. I mean, this is the border czar, folks. Right? I mean, has there been a more failed policy in the history of our country than Joe Biden's border policy, which has seen an invasion by consent? I don't know what else to call it. She's the one that oversaw it. That's the stuff that's obvious to you and I, though. Even for a leftist, her record in California, and let's put it this way. I'm just going to zero in on one angle of this. Some are hoping on the left that Kamala Harris can help Joe Biden and the Democrat Party solve their black voter problem. Kamala Harris's defining accomplishment, I'm doing air quotes if you're not watching on YouTube and you're just listening the old-fashioned way, her defining accomplishment was putting a record number of young black men in jail for relatively minor drug offenses, as RFK Jr. just articulated up in Massachusetts. Is that something that is going to motivate young Democrat voters when they learn about it? I can't wait for the debate, assuming there's going to be one, and I think there will be, coming up in September after she is confirmed as the nominee, if that's what happened. Donald Trump is going to make mincemeat of her. It's going to be hard to listen to, all of the mentions of Venn diagrams and the cackling, and what's that quote that she keeps recycling, Phil? We have to be unburdened by what has come before.
Unburdened by what has been, or something.
By what has been.
Something along those lines.
I've said it before, and I've taken some heat for it on social media because people think it's kind of mean. But she's a profoundly stupid person, and I'm not saying this because I disagree with her. There are people, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, who I profoundly disagree with on just about everything. No one's going to accuse Bill Clinton of being stupid, right? Barack Obama, clearly a very talented operator. These are not dumb men. They're arguably evil men, especially Bill Clinton, given some of what we've learned of him and Mr. Epstein as of late, right? Not stupid. Kamala is a dumb person. She is where she is, and some of you are going to get your panties twisted when I say this. So maybe, if you're in a place where it's appropriate, maybe put your hands on him just to make sure it doesn't happen and you don't give yourself a wedgie. She's where she is because she checks boxes. That's it. That's all she brings to the table. And by the way, that's the only reason why if she indeed is confirmed as the nominee, why it ended up happening. If Kamala Harris looked like producer Phil, she would be out at her keister tomorrow. That's just the truth.
It's true.
It's just true.
No, it's true.
Right? If she looked like me, if she was a slightly portly white guy in an ugly floral shirt with thick black glasses, Kamala Harris would be nowhere. It's because she's a moderately attractive, non-white female. Because that's what the Democrat Party is. It's not a meritocracy. In the Republican Party, and particularly the Donald Trump Republican Party, we don't care what you look like. So long as you can do the job. We care about ideas and grit and determination and whether or not you're willing to fight the deep state. And in Trump's coalition, you just saw that at the Republican National Convention. They come in all shapes and sizes and colors. They look like Hulk Hogan, right? They look like Ben Carson. Could you find two people on the planet less alike than Hulk Hogan and Ben Carson, at least by all the superficial measures of the left? But guess what they have in common, right? They believe in this country, and they believe that Donald Trump is one of the only guys left out there playing at that level who is actually in it to win it for us. He doesn't need to be there. You heard it over and over again out in Milwaukee. He should be on a yacht somewhere in the Mediterranean with Melania and his family, sunning himself on a deck, drinking top-shelf liquor that you and I could not afford with a year's wages. He's not. He is literally taking bullets for us. And I thought that was one of the strongest lines of the Republican National Convention. This is cut 14. I know I know most of you watched, although he went on for some time. So it's possible that some of you did not make the entire speech. Maybe you caught some of it later. I thought that this was the pull quote from his speech, and it's got to make it into some super PAC ads if it's not already happening. Listen to Donald Trump deliver the boom here.
They do is misinformation and disinformation, and they keep saying he's a threat to democracy. I'm saying, what the hell did I do for democracy? Last week I took a bullet for democracy. What did I do against democracy? Crazy. Hello, Chris. Here's our great campaign man.
Yeah,
Chris, are you
right?
having a good time? Look at him.
He nailed it, right? The Democrats talk about democracy. Kamala Harris is going to talk a lot about democracy. She's talked plenty about democracy. They use the word, I don't think they know what it means. Right? We know we're not a democracy. We're a representative federal republic. And we're not going to turn this show into a political science class. But when we use democracy in the colloquial way, what we're really talking about is, are the people at the end of the day in the driver's seat when it comes to the direction and the future of their nation? Kamala Harris and whoever the Democrats decide to put on the ticket with her, they don't really believe that, even though they talk about it. And if you need all the proof that anyone could possibly supply to you, again, as I've said, just look at their process that they're using to select their nominee. They just threw out millions of primary votes because Joe Biden wasn't polling well. They don't care what the people think. They do whatever they think they need to do to hold on to power. Meanwhile, Donald Trump literally out there taking the slings and arrows, figuratively and literally, for us. So, in many ways, I do welcome that contrast between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, if that's indeed where we're going. I predicted possibly a Kamala Harris bump because she's going to get some fawning media attention. I just want to prepare you for this, that Joe Biden has not been getting in recent weeks for obvious reasons because they wanted to push him out of the contest. So expect a little of that. I do think that Joe Biden, by deciding to hold on to power and not resigning and making her the president, We may look back on that decision 100 days from now and realize that that was the moment the Democrats lost 2024. Still plenty of baseball to play. We'll see where this goes. But he could have made Kamala an incumbent. He could have eliminated a serious Democrat primary, contested convention, whatever you want to call what's about to happen, if it does happen. And he would give her the ability to run on history. She's going to run now as the first woman of color, right, to ever have a major party nomination. Well, ask Hillary how much running as a first female nominee of a major party helped her. I don't think the American people care about that as much as the Democrat leadership thinks they care about that. But if she was the president of the United States, she would have some legitimate history to lean into because the proverbial glass ceiling would already be broken. So Joe Biden may have, in his refusal to hand the baton off today and relinquish power earlier than he has to, he may have already doomed Kamala out of the gate. We'll see what happens. My question is, how did they get him out of the race? I have thought, and I tweeted probably like 30 minutes before the announcement came out, Phil, that the only way the Democrats were going to be able to get Joe Biden out of the race is to pay the guy off. Because we know that the Bidens are grifters. That's the reason why they didn't want to go and he wanted to run to begin with, because they sell influence. These people don't have any real skills. The Biden family, they don't. It's a crime syndicate that sells influence and puts cash in their own pockets. So I thought, all right, maybe if somebody made them a good enough deal, they would get out. I wonder what the deal is. 855-839-1210 is the number. Let's take a break, play some ads, make some money for 1210's coffers, and we'll be back with more analysis of Joe Biden's departure from the presidential contest and everything else we can fit into 3 hours here on 1210 WPHT.
Your 401k goes up and down. That's fine when you're 40, but not when you're 60. Find out how to protect your hard-earned money. Tune in to the Retirement Spectrum with Alan Cohen, Saturdays at 3 on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
As a roofer, I'm always on the go. So I need to be able to get things done from anywhere. That's why I partnered with Beacon. With their unique Beacon Pro Plus app, I've got the brands I depend on, like GAF, right at my fingertips 24/7. I rely on Beacon because I never stop building, and neither do they. Now through September 15th, purchase GAF through Beacon Pro Plus and earn up to $1,500. Go to BECN.com or download the Beacon Pro Plus app today. Beacon, always building.
Is the Mazda CX-50 truly both rugged and refined? Can the CX-5 be both beautiful and invigorating? Is the CX-90 roomy and responsive? And is the CX-30 both stylish and safe? Good questions. Find out with Mazda all summer long.
Visit Piazza Mazda of Westchester and Reading for financing as low as 0% APR for 36 months on select new models.
Don't miss the Labor and Energy Show with J-Doc and Krause, brought to you by Advocacy United, this Saturday night at 6. Find out about the important issues that'll affect you. The Labor and Energy Show, Saturday night at 6 on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. Don't miss the Education Show with Dom Giordano every Sunday morning at 5:30. Find out how you can help your child or grandchild succeed. Sponsored by New Hope Academy.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6481. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call
800-575-6481. That's 800-575-6481.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
By texting 64000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Real Success. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at ourrealsuccess.com.
Do you want to learn how to make money flipping houses and acquiring rental properties right here in Philadelphia? We're offering a handful of motivated individuals the opportunity to attend our workshop right here in Philadelphia for free. That's right, we'll give you 2 free tickets when you text INVEST to 64,000. Philadelphia is the perfect market to flip houses and build rental income. Discover the simple steps developed by Joe Arias, one of real estate's greatest rags to riches stories. You'll learn to flip properties and secure rental properties without using your own money and in your spare time. Don't miss this opportunity. Come to a complimentary live 2-hour workshop next week right here in Philadelphia and learn how to start making money flipping homes and building long-term wealth with rental properties. To get 2 free tickets, text INVEST to 64,000. Text in the next 10 minutes, and registrants will also receive a free copy of our Funding for Deals guide. Text INVEST to 64,000 for 2 complimentary tickets. Text INVEST to 64,000.
Calling on Blackwood to follow 1210 WPHT on the free Odyssey app. Download it now.
You're going to speak to him. I can't wait. This is going to be like body slamming the giant at WrestleMania.
What brought you out here? Why are you here?
Well, Brett, I got tired of remaining silent. I sat back and watched the borders collapse. I watched the economy collapse. I watched the price of gas, the price of food, everything just do an upside down flip. And when they took a shot at my hero, Donald Trump, I realized that I couldn't be silent anymore. I had to step up. I had to be a real American, just like all these real Americans here in Donald Trump. I have a voice too, and I want people to know it's time to talk. It's time not to be silent anymore.
I saw your post.
That's Hulk Hogan, folks. His real name, Terry Bollea. My childhood hero. If you were a kid in the 80s or 90s, there was not a Saturday morning that you didn't at least check in on what was then WWF, now WWE Wrestling.
Yeah, I actually, I go further back since I'm a little older with Jimmy
Right.
Superfly Snuka, but Hulk Hogan, in his heyday, was must-watch TV.
Well, that was the pivot point. WrestleMania
Right.
1, it was
Absolutely.
It was Hogan, Superfly, and
Like Macho
Mr. T.
Man.
They were on a tag team.
Yep.
And it was who was on the other side? Rowdy Piper.
Rowdy Piper, yep.
Rest in peace. I love Rowdy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, see that's and this is what the left doesn't get. The official Biden account, the campaign account, attacked Hulk Hogan for saying that, Hulkamania is going to run wild all over you during the proceedings of the RNC. It was a great speech, lots of fun. I think that the Gen Z dork that runs that account probably isn't old enough to remember Hulk Hogan. Has undoubtedly heard of him,
right?
But doesn't appreciate that that's just one of his
how massive
his
he
catchphrases.
was, and the whole thing was at that time.
Right.
It was unbelievable.
So for a demographic that the Trump campaign's trying to reach, right? A bunch of Gen Xers, some boomers, some older millennials like myself who remember what a great country this was in the 1980s. That's the significance of Hulk Hogan being at that convention. It's a visible reminder of how fun and strong and persuasive and infectious our culture used to be and what we can be again. Yes, I get it. Professional wrestling, only one very small, arguably hokey part of that. But it was very brilliant stagecraft having Hulk Hogan at that event. Whoever designed that convention deserves a raise, a bonus, whatever the political equivalent
Would
is.
you like a fun fact?
I would love a fun fact.
A fun fact is one day, since my mom was really good friends with somebody that worked for the WWE now, F then, I actually took phone calls for Classy Freddie Blassie at corporate.
Town. Nothing beats a good wrestling story.
I mean, it was. I mean, granted, it was a summer. No one was really in the building, but I took a couple calls. Okay, fine.
And
I was in the building.
And we here at 1210, we have listeners all over the place, but we're obviously based here in the city of unbrotherly love, the shooting gallery that is Philadelphia. A big part of this city's history. And I remember as a kid going with my grandfather to the Spectrum. Some of you out there remember the Spectrum, right? If you're over a certain age, you do. Back in probably like 1990, and I saw Hulk Hogan versus Sergeant Slaughter.
Well, my big match was in New Haven where I saw Hulk Hogan face Big John Studd.
Big John Studd. Yeah.
It was awesome.
Great times, great convention last week. It was a home run. 855-839-1210 is the number here on the Matt Rooney Show over on YouTube, youtube.com/@1210 WPHT. Lucy Lou in the comments says Democrats, democracy equals power. Well, that's kind of it, right? I mean, they only care about democracy insofar as they can manipulate, scare, put enough people in apprehension, buy off a requisite number of Americans to vote for what it is that they want to accomplish. Democracy for Democrats is a means to an end. They talk about it in reverential terms, but they don't really care about the people. The left cares about leftism. The left cares about their agenda. That's it. That's all they've ever cared about. And we're going to see that again in stark terms as election 2024 enters into its home stretch following the Democrat convention, which is coming up in just a month, and they don't have a nominee. Think about that for a second. The Democrat convention is in August. We are sitting here on July 21st, and we don't know for sure whether or not Cackling Kamala is actually going to sew up the nomination. There are out there plenty of Democrats already jockeying to be her vice presidential nominee, her running mate. And some of these names will be familiar to some of you. My friend David Wildstein over at the New Jersey Globe has said that King Philip the Unaccountable, as our friend Rich Zeoli calls him, Phil Murphy, has ruled out running for president in the contested Democrat convention. But, according to Wildstein sources, and David and I haven't spoken about this, but I'm going to guess they're probably sources close to Phil Murphy, apparently there are some national Democrats who have reached out to Phil to consider, or to, I guess, to gauge whether or not the governor of New Jersey is interested in running as Kamala's running mate. Can you imagine? There's also been some discussion of Gretchen Whitmer, though apparently she's saying she's not going to run. I don't know if that includes the vice presidency. I mean, how do you choose between Gretchen Whitmer and Phil Murphy? I guess you figure out which one of them killed more old people during COVID in nursing homes. I mean, how do you break that tie between those two failed governors and confirmed ghouls? I don't know. Here's the one that perhaps should give Republicans some apprehension, even though I'm obviously not a fan. I understand the electoral map. There is some discussion that Josh Shapiro may be interested in the vice presidential nomination should Kamala be the Democrat Party's nominee. There's an article over at capitalstar.com. There's a hyphen between capital and star, okay? And it's all about Pennsylvania politicians and their reaction to Kamala Harris. I think it's notable, and a friend of the program pointed this out to me earlier, that Shapiro has come out and endorsed Harris already at a time when a lot of Democrats, including Phil Murphy, have remained silent, and that you've got many Democrat luminaries in the Keystone State coming out and backing Kamala Harris. They include Bob Brady, House Speaker Joanna McClinton, apparently, is saying that Shapiro would be the best vice presidential nominee. You get the sense that the Pennsylvania Democrat establishment, Phil, is at least trying to put Shapiro in position to be considered. And, I'm a South Jersey guy, so even though I know more about Pennsylvania politics than many, I don't pretend to be the expert in the same way that I am on my side of the river. Usually that kind of thing doesn't happen unless the guy who is the subject of conversation, Shapiro, is giving a green light to his allies to say those sorts of things publicly. Now, Real Clear Politics, which up until this point, I guess they need to shuffle all their polling and make it Trump versus Kamala. But if you look at the Trump versus Biden poll in Pennsylvania as of today's withdrawal by the president, Trump was leading by 4.5 points in Pennsylvania. Massive margin for a Republican in this state. The most recent polling, absolutely grisly for the Democrat ticket. Insider advantage, Trump +4 at 49%, nearly at 50, the magic number. Emerson, Trump up 5 at 48. New York Times, Trump at 48. They saw Pennsylvania slipping away. If Democrats put Josh Shapiro on a ticket and they can stop the bleeding in Pennsylvania, that doesn't mean that Trump and Vance are done, but it definitely complicates their electoral map if indeed Shapiro was able to give Kamala a pretty significant boost in PA. So that's something that you got to keep your eye on here. There are so many moving pieces, and it's going to twist pundits in knots over the next few weeks and set up a very interesting paradox, because on the one hand, pundits love gabbing about this stuff and nerding out and talking about different possibilities. The more to talk about, the more airtime they can fill, the more ads they can sell. That's how the business works. But until we have a Democrat nominee and a vice presidential nominee, Republicans are very much tilting at windmills. Up until this point, about a week ago, when someone tried to take President Trump's life, Republicans were very content to sit back and let the Biden campaign self-destruct. Then, out in Butler, Pennsylvania, everything changed. And all of a sudden, the conversation was about President Trump being shot, being injured, the tragic loss of a fire chief at his rally. It seems that Trump likely got a polling bump out of that horrific experience. Not the reason he would have wanted to get a polling bump, but the discussion was no longer about Joe Biden and his slipping faculties. Where do we go from here? I don't know, but Republicans are entering into uncertain times, and everybody needs to redouble their resolves, folks, to beat the left in election 2024, because they've got a few more tricks up their sleeve, and we can't take anything for granted. 855-839-1210 is the number. I am Matt Rooney. This is the Matt Rooney Show. Hour number 1, done. Hour number 2, lying ahead. We've got representatives of the Trump campaign coming up here in just a few moments. Don't go anywhere.
When you need to know, depend on KYW News Radio 103.9 FM.
At least 3 people have been killed and 7 others wounded as gunfire hit a crowd at a planned event in West Philadelphia. Police have arrested a woman in a Thursday shooting that injured a 7-month-old in the Northeast. Israel bombed a Houthi oil facility after a Houthi drone killed 1 person in Israel.
Get the latest anytime on KYW News Radio. Now on Crystal Clear 103.9 FM.
You've never needed us more.
Hi, this is Dom Giordano. Get ready for a gift from Rescue Natural Supplements. It's their Christmas in July sale. That's right, the season of giving is making a summer comeback with huge savings. That means all health supplements will be slashed up to 50, 60, even 70% off site-wide. Treat yourself with savings on heart-healthy omega-3s, pain-relieving anti-inflammatories, natural immunity boosters, and so much more. To order, call 800-26-ALIVE, 800-262-5483. Speak to a rescue product consultant or shop online at res-q.com, res-q.com. Don't miss Rescue's Christmas in July sale. Shop savings up to 70% off all natural solutions for your highs and lows, from high blood pressure, cholesterol, low energy, testosterone. Rescue's got you covered. Hurry on over. Unwrap the joy of a healthier you at res-q.com. Do it today.
Just like our offensive line protects our star quarterback, plumbers protect the health of the nation. And Philadelphia Plumbers Union Local 690 is no different. In hospitals, commercial, industrial, and residential, with the best trained plumbers in the world, you can be sure your project is done on time and on budget, no matter how big or small. So when your business needs to build new or expand existing facilities, you can count on the members of Plumbers Union Local 690. Visit plumber690.org.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working. Who, me? Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
WPHT, WPHT HD, WOGL HD3 Philadelphia. From the Cherry Hill Volvo Studios, where relationships matter. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. Kamala Harris vows she will earn
and win the Democratic nomination for the presidency after Joe Biden announced hours ago he was dropping out of the race and endorsing her to take his place at the top of the ticket. Correspondent Weijia Jiang is outside the vice presidential residence in Washington.
She spoke with President Biden earlier when he called her before he made the big announcement. They had a private conversation, and then she spent the day reaching out to members of Congress, including House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
Neither Jeffries nor Chuck Schumer nor former President Obama has endorsed Harris. Among high-profile Democrats who have, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, Pennsylvania's Josh Shapiro, Michigan's Gretchen Whitmer, and just now, California Governor Gavin Newsom. Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar has hopped on the Harris bandwagon.
She, along with President Biden, got our nation through this pandemic. We've seen record job increases. She is someone that knows the work, knows the job.
But Harris could have challengers. CBS's Robert Costa has new information.
Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, who just registered as an independent, a longtime centrist Democrat. CBS News has now learned he is considering re-registering as a member of the Democratic Party to consider standing for the Democratic presidential nomination, in effect challenging Vice President Harris for that nomination.
First Lady Jill Biden's office says that as her husband's biggest believer and champion, she was supportive of whatever road he chose. Former CBS News White House correspondent Peter Mayer.
For many, especially the Biden family and his longtime admirers, this is a very sad moment. Certainly not the way he or they wanted his long political career to end. He's faced so many incredibly tough challenges and situations in his life. But now the toughest political decision that he has made, the decision to leave this race.
Response from the Republican ticket, swift. CBS's Stacey Lynn.
On Truth Social, former President Trump said, quote, "Crooked Joe just got knocked out, so now I'll have to do it a fourth time." His VP running mate, J.D. Vance, also posting on social media, saying Joe Biden has been the worst president in my lifetime, and Kamala Harris has been right there with him every step of the way.
The next step for Democrats, correspondent John Dickerson.
First big task is staying unified, and the second is figuring out how to take the fight to Donald Trump. Democrats are terrified that basically since the first debate, the only debate, 27th of June, they've been losing ground to Donald Trump, not able to take the case to him.
Mr. Biden says he'll provide more details later this week. This is CBS News.
Sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Looking for a career path with flexibility, great pay, and benefits? Go to progressive.com/careers and apply online today.
WPHT, WPHT-HD, WOGL HD3 Philadelphia. From the Cherry Hill Volvo Studios, where relationships matter. Always live on the free Odyssey app. Live and local with Matt Rooney on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
What exactly are these details we're going to get from Joe Biden later this week? It's what he said in his statement, folks, and I am extremely curious to hear what there is to add, because best I can tell, Joe Biden was just pressured out of the presidential race, the 2024 campaign. He is the first president since LBJ who, due to the backlash against our failures in Vietnam, was forced to not seek re-election back in '68, right? So this is the first Democrat president in about half a century to find himself in this position, and there's more to say. He's not resigning. He probably should, right? I mean, you saw that debate just the same as I did. You've seen him fall upstairs. You've seen him fall downstairs. You've seen him confuse another woman for his wife. Now, I mean, maybe if I was married to Dr. Jill, I'd play dumb too and try to plant one on someone else, right? Maybe we can't blame him for that, given the ghoul that he said I do to. But still, it doesn't change the fact that clearly the man is not competent to lead today. This isn't just the next 4 years problem. This is a now problem. He's leader of the free world. He is not assistant manager of a Denny's. Matt Rooney here on the Matt Rooney Show. Welcome back, old friends, new frenemies, and all who lie elsewhere in between. We are kicking off our numero dos of trace for our bilingual listeners and viewers. And we've got a jam-packed hour ahead indeed. I'm looking forward to bringing this hour to you. We are going to get to the bottom of today's announcement, and we're going to talk to two figures on the Trump campaign that I think can help us do so. Just in about 10 minutes, we're going to be joined by Trump campaign deputy communications director Carolyn Sunshine, who will give us some reaction from the president and future vice president's campaign. Today's blockbuster news. And then after her, we'll be joined by Veterans for Trump chair Jessie Jane Duff. She's a retired gunnery sergeant for the United States Marine Corps. Not shy with her opinion, but that's fine because we're not around here either. Can't wait to talk to her. It's going to be good. It's going to be colorful. You're going to enjoy it, I promise. Again, 855-839-1210 is the number. You can also watch over on YouTube, youtube.com/@1210WPHT, where you can admire my selection of Fun Guy shirt for today, which involves some colorful green fronds, and these are flamingos on my shirt.
Yeah, that would have looked good when I went to
Lady Against
the
Teal
Keys
Field
last week, or well, not last week, last month. So
you were in the Keys.
Well, I mean, this year, it's all blending. I don't even know anymore.
So your attempt to get sympathy for being here on your anniversary is
I'm
gone.
trying to do something.
It's gone.
I'm trying to do something.
For those who don't know, right? Because I think I devote more time into plumbing the depths of not just the psyche of producer Phil Almquist, but also his schedule, more so than any other host at the station. This guy goes to more concerts, more sporting events, travels more.
I have two
than
concerts
most of
this
the people
week, by
I know.
the way. I have
yeah.
two shows this week.
Yeah, I mean, are you trying to make us hate you more?
No.
You're going to have higher unfavorability ratings than Kamala Harris if you
It
keep
just
it
shows
up, man.
I keep my social calendar even though I work my butt off here.
God, you were the worst. It's the only reason I don't like when you're here for the show, because it's just depressing. Like, oh, I just got back from the Keys, and then I'm going to see Def Leppard, and then we're going to, go backpack across the Himalayas. It's always something.
I mean, 7 weeks from today, I'll be in Yosemite.
You're just a bad guy. You're just a bad guy. Speaking of unfavorability ratings, by the way, I mean, I don't think people truly understand how much the American people don't like Kamala Harris, which is the thing that the Trump campaign fundamentally has going for it tonight. You never like uncertainty, and they were pretty sure they could beat Joe Biden. That's part of the reason why Republicans, despite their fears for the country, were perfectly fine to let Joe continue to bumble and stumble through to November. But it's bad. It's bad. She is completely upside down in the Real Clear Politics average. Her approval rating as of today, I want to say it's like 38%, 38.1% approve and have a favorable opinion of Kamala Harris. Her unfavorable rating, 52.3%. Massive for an incumbent. And what's really interesting about this is a lot of times people don't have strong opinions about vice presidents because they don't get nearly the same amount of attention as presidents for obvious reasons. Anyone who encounters Kamala, hears her speak, sees her tweets, takes in any of her ridiculous gaffes, they immediately develop a negative opinion. The betting markets are beginning to digest whether or not Kamala Harris has a shot at beating Donald Trump, and it's not great. She's at a little under 30% in the RCP betting averages. Trump pushing 60. So we'll see how things shake out. Here on the Matt Rooney Show, we will follow every single angle of this. We will digest every little bit of it. And we'll try to help you understand this is the often seemingly nonsensical times in which we are finding ourselves. But at least we've got somebody fighting for us, right? That's a promising thing. At least it gives me a little bit of hope. I think that Scott Jennings, who was speaking at the RNC last week, knew more than he said. This is before Kamala Harris was kind of sort of elevated to the nominee. She's not there yet. It's certainly before Joe Biden made his announcement on Sunday, earlier today, to drop from the 2024 race. Scott Jennings is a writer. He's a conservative strategist. You've seen him on television before. I thought he summed up what is now playing out in real time on our televisions, in our social media. What the heck do you call it? Our social media feeds, I guess, is the term we're using these days. Unless, of course, you're part of that CrowdStrike outage and you still don't have access to the internet, then you might not be able to see or hear any of this. That's a topic for another time. See, that's a massive story, Phil. In any week would be like the number one story, but it's not even in the top 5 at the moment, given where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, when I walked in here Monday morning, because it happened at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm going into Monday morning, trying to set up Kale and Company.
Yeah.
All these computers had the blue screen of death. All of them.
Blue screen of death. I saw people posting monitors at the airport with the blue screen of death, and obviously they're hoping to see information concerning the flight. And I'm thinking that must be a sickening feeling.
Well, I walk in, I'm trying to, prep and make sure I finish all my prep that I need to do for Kale and Company, and I had the blue screen of death. So our IT people, who are great here, we're helping eliminate those blue screens and get us up and running and going.
Got to help Phil do his job.
Yeah, got to.
That's what we all want. But Scott Jennings, again, this soundbite that you're about to hear is from a few days ago, prior to Joe Biden dropping out of the race. Did he have a heads up? Of course he didn't, but you would have thought so. A little bit of prescience from Scott Jennings. Listen, this is cut 8.
Party after 1 week ban is still the party of fun, and the party of democracy is down the street plotting a political coup against the sitting president of the United States.
Plotting a coup against the sitting president of the United States. And that's what we saw executed today. Joe Biden is getting credit for being a great guy, for being a hero of democracy, for rescuing the Democrat Party by making this decision to drop out of the race. Joe Biden is not a good guy. I'm tired of people saying this. He is a confirmed jerk. You remember that comment he made about Mitt Romney and Republicans wanting black people back in chains during the 2012 election when he was Barack Obama's vice president? I mean, this is an objectively mean, nasty, say anything to win kind of guy. It's a man who wouldn't acknowledge his own grandchild because it was inconvenient to his crack addict son, Hunter. I mean, what kind of, for any of you out there that are parents, grandparents, hey, kids or grandkids, can you imagine not being acknowledged by your grandfather? Not getting a Christmas card? I mean, I know we all have different family dynamics, but it's all made the worse when your grandfather's president of the United States. Can you imagine what that kid's going to think as they grow older and become aware of how they were treated? It's remarkable stuff. He's not a good guy. But let's make no mistake about it. The point is that Joe Biden is not in this race because he made some kind of heroic decision. Joe Biden's not in this race because he was forced out by the Democrat elites. They didn't think they could win with him, so they decided enough is enough. Now we're going to try to plug in the person we want, or at least we're going to throw a Hail Mary. And if Kamala ultimately ends up being the nominee, make no mistake about it, that's what she is. She's not off to a great start with her audition, though. There's an article over at NBC News. Apparently, donors had a call with Kamala over the weekend in which she attempted to shore up support with about 300 fairly major Democrat donors. And when we say major donors, these are not people that donate like $500 or $5,000. These are people that give 5-6 figures themselves and then bring in other big money people. These guys are good for millions, right? And apparently this call did nothing to reinforce confidence in the Biden-Harris ticket, or certainly Kamala Harris herself. Apparently, according to NBC News, one donor called the whole presentation ludicrous. Someone else said it was mismanaged and rushed. And this is who Democrats think is going to give them a better chance of getting back to the White House. God help us if there's ever a White House that's run by Kamala Harris. Ludicrous, mismanaged, and rushed are going to be the best possible things that we could say about what we would see if this prize fool is ever given the nuclear codes and actual power. It would be a very, very sad day for this country, and that's possibly the understatement of the century. And make no mistake about it, too, this woman has tremendous polling vulnerabilities. One of my goals of tonight's show is to try to caution you all into getting complacent and assuming that because Biden was failing and now they're throwing a Hail Mary and they're turning to Kamala and her polls also stink. I want to try to keep you from becoming complacent and realize that this is still very much going to be a dogfight. But Harris, her polling vulnerabilities are very significant. There's also another story over at NBC News, okay, talking about where she runs well, where she doesn't. It's from about a week ago. She still trails Trump just the same as Biden was trailing the former president. Ultimately, to use NBC's words, there was very little difference in this NBC poll between how Kamala polled and Biden polled among most groups, specifically by age, by gender, among Latino voters. Interestingly, a quarter of GOP voters in that NBC poll who said they were unsatisfied with Donald Trump as the nominee. I guess these are the Nikki Haley voters. There are some of them still kicking around out there. Kamala actually does worse with them. They flock to Trump, in fact. That particular group saw Trump's lead among them grow by 57 points if Kamala Harris is the nominee. And I would suspect because some never-Trumpers out there, I'm not talking about the Bill Kristol crowd, but there are Republicans out there that mean well, but would rather go riding off the cliff waving their flag than make a pragmatic decision and support a nominee that they're not entirely comfortable with, and in so doing, hand the election to the far left, represented by Kamala, by Biden, by whoever. They can't stomach Kamala. So is she going to improve the strength of the Democrat coalition heading into November? Probably not. And I can't say that I'm very sad about that, if I'm being honest, and I always endeavor to be honest with you. 855-839-1210 is the number. We want to take a quick break, Phil? Let's take a quick break, and then when we return, we have guest numero uno of the evening, the Deputy Comms Director of the Trump campaign, to discuss today's big development, Joe Biden dropping his re-election campaign. Stick here with 1210 WPHT.
Hi, this is Dom Giordano. You know that I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games. And the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app, dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And during the summer, FanDuel, in partnership with Valley Forge Casino, is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Head over to FanDuel.com/Dom and make the most out of your summer. FanDuel Sportsbook is the official partner of 1210 WPHT, FanDuel official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. You have to be 21 plus and present in Pennsylvania. Opt-in required. Wager requirements apply. Bonuses awarded as non-withdrawable bonus bets or profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including bonus expiration. See terms and conditions at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? 1-800-GAMBLER.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the Relief Hotline at 800-522-2174. 800-522-2174. 800-522-2174.
NASCAR champion Bobby Labonte here with my brother Terry and my nephew Justin. You know, every sport has its essential safety gear.
For racing, we wear helmets, fire-retardant suits, and Nomex gloves.
For fishing, waterfowl hunting, and boating, we wear life jackets.
After an intense race, there's nothing more relaxing than bass fishing.
Or a little duck hunting on the lake.
But we're the first ones to tell you, on the track or on the water, accidents happen fast.
In a crash, there's no time to put on a helmet. And when a boater capsizes or is thrown from the boat, there's rarely time to reach a stowed life jacket.
But today's life jackets are lightweight and comfortable. Fishing or hunting, they don't get in your way.
That's why you won't catch a Labani on the water without a life jacket.
Don't let us catch you either. Remember, you're in command. Boat safely.
This message brought to you by the United States Coast Guard. For more information on boating safety, visit www.uscgboating.org.
Be sure to follow Talk Radio 1210 WPHT on the free Odyssey app. Download it now.
You said it was your anniversary. Which anniversary is it? How many years?
It's 17, actually.
17.
Yep.
Check you out.
Yeah, how about that, huh?
Not a lot of people make it to 17
That's
years
true.
these days.
That is true. So 17.
Congratulations to you and Mrs. Phil. That's how I'm going to refer to her.
That's totally fine.
To protect the identities of
fine.
of the innocent. Matt Rooney here on the Matt Rooney Show, 855-839-1210. Let's get to the first of four guests today on a very busy program. She is the Deputy Communications Director for Donald Trump and now Senator J.D. Vance's campaign. She is one of the faces of that campaign, and we are happy to have her with her on tonight's program to give us an official reaction from Trump HQ following Joe Biden's departure from the 2024 race. Carolyn Sunshine, welcome to 1210 WPHT. Appreciate you joining us on a very busy night.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Now, you're a political pro. You've been watching this stuff for a while. You've worked in politics. You were part of the prior Trump administration. It's got to be a weird thing as a political operative to be sitting here at the end of July and not knowing who you're running against. Not just for the president, but for everyone on the team, including yourself.
Well, we're seeing today that the Democrat Party is trying to become unburdened by what has been, by forcing Joe Biden to step down off of their ticket. But look, if Joe Biden is having to step down as the nominee of his party, then because he's not fit to serve as the nominee, then he also needs to step down as president of the United States. Because if he's not fit to serve as the nominee, he's not fit to serve as president. Of course, that's actually what this is really about, right? If the Democrat Party felt that Joe Biden was fit to continue serving as the nominee, they'd keep him at the top of the ticket. That's obviously not what is happening here. Now you're seeing Joe Biden's first mistake, Kamala Harris, has earned his endorsement. And look, Joe Biden's record is Kamala Harris's record. These people, this party, is in such a state of decline and disarray. And actually, I don't want this to get lost because I think this is yet another tremendous credit to President Trump. Obviously, it's been an extraordinary last 2.5 weeks for our country. We first had the debate to end all debates. Then we had President Trump survive an assassin's bullet. As he said, I took a bullet for democracy while Joe took 10% for the big guy, let's be honest. Or he is the big guy. And now we're seeing this remarkable turn of events in a nominee of a major party ticket who also happens to be the sitting president of the United States stepping down. Historic, no doubt. But again, President Trump is the one who actually deserves the credit for Joe Biden stepping down from this ticket. And again, he should step down as president of the United States. It was after President Trump's victorious debate performance that the American people were able to see. They'd already seen for years the truth of Joe Biden's decline, but it was highlighted more than ever. And it was really the Democrat Party and the liberal mainstream media whose jig was up. These people have been carried. Like, this cannot go unforgiven. The Democrat Party and liberal mainstream media have known for years that Joe Biden is not fit to serve. They've had a front row seat to his decline. In fact, no one has had more of a front row seat to that decline than Kamala Harris herself. These people never said a word. They never lifted a finger. They have let this country go to hell in a handbasket, and they've never said a word. Meanwhile, the jig was up after President Trump's dominant debate performance. They couldn't hide anymore. The veneer was fully off. The first question that Kamala Harris is going to have to answer is, why is it that you have had the front row seats to Joe Biden's cognitive decline for the last 4 years and never said a word? That's going to be the first question that she's going to have to answer, and she's not going to be able to answer it. It doesn't matter who the Democrats put up as their candidate. You can change the candidate. You can't change the platform. You just saw President Trump come off of a historic week in Milwaukee where you keep hearing about what tremendous energy was there. I, of course, can attest to that. It was a phenomenal week where President Trump has unified the Republican Party behind him, and he's put forth this platform that is a winning message, yes, for Republicans, but it's also a winning message for the country. There's a post that's going viral on X from a user named @Jason. It's just @Jason. And he's saying that with everybody that he's talking to, he's hearing from moderates and longtime Democrats that they are switching their vote to President Trump, and it's because President Trump is speaking to them and speaking to the country in a way that Democrats have forgotten how to. So the Democrat Party can change the candidate, but they can't change the platform. The issues that are most important to the American people this election have not changed. There's a lot that has changed in the last 2 weeks in American politics. The issues most important to the American people, the problems facing them, their realities, and the Democrat Party that has caused those problems, those haven't changed. And we know that that's inflation, the economy, and immigration. And in fact, we know Kamala Harris, as bad as Joe Biden has been on all of those issues, not only has Kamala Harris been the cackling co-pilot to all of that, she's even worse. You know, she's Joe Biden's border czar. I don't know what she's been doing for the last 4 years, but if Joe Biden's open border is on his hands, it's on hers as well. And she's far worse. This is a woman who has called, like I said, if you think Joe Biden's been bad, oh my gosh, who would ever want to see a Kamala Harris administration? This is a woman who said we should defund ICE. This is a woman who compared the Border Patrol's tactics to slavery. This is a woman who thinks we should defund the police. This is a woman who is incompetent as Joe Biden in different ways. Of course, lying to the American people that she listened to Snoop Dogg in college when the album was in out. I mean, if you think Joe Biden is a fraud and a liar and dishonest and incompetent and unfit to serve, all of which is true, just wait until Kamala Harris is back in the spotlight. Because let's also not forget this part as well. There's a reason that the Democrat Party has kept her tucked away in some closet in the West Wing for the last 4 years and is only now having to roll her out when they absolutely have to. They don't want this either. The American people don't want Joe Biden, very clear, but they also don't want Kamala Harris. And it's more important than ever, as we've seen, for the country to unify. We know that the country wants unity. They're not looking to the Democrat Party for this. It's a party that can barely unify themselves. It's actually President Trump and his unified movement to make America great again that this will sound like Star Wars, but is the last great hope for this country.
And you even worked in a Star Wars analogy. Oh, my God.
Just for you.
She's trying to win us over here, Phil. I have one small quibble with the president's messaging in all of this, and maybe as one of the leaders on his comms team, you can do something about it. He's calling her laughing Kamala, cackling Kamala. You just said it. The alliteration is so much better. Maybe you can work that into his next speech. I know trying to control what Donald Trump says is always a fool's errand, but that would be my amateur suggestion. But you hit the nail on the head, right? She owns his record because it's also her record. But I don't think Kamala Harris, and I shouldn't say think, I know, Sunshine, it doesn't fix the campaign's core problem, which is competency. Joe Biden was incompetent. He remains incompetent today. Our country remains in danger because of his inability to lead. Kamala might be much younger, but she's no brighter. She's arguably much dumber, and she's failed at every single task that's been given to her, most notably border czar, which you mentioned a moment ago. So I would imagine in the weeks to come, if she's the nominee, the ads are going to write themselves.
Absolutely. And again, let's not forget, this is a woman who, like I said, has had a front row seat to every one of Joe Biden's failures. You look at the abysmal withdrawal of Afghanistan, where on that debate stage, Joe Biden couldn't remember or didn't want to acknowledge that 13 U.S. service members died under his watch. All of them, except one, by the way, were under 30 years old. You just saw a clip of Kamala Harris circulating today where she proudly said she was the last person in the room with Joe Biden when those decisions were being made. all you need to do is, I mean, if your listeners are listening, right, you replay those images. We all remember of what happened at Abbey Gate, those C-4s taking off, the chaos on that runway, and before we knew it, 13 American lives of some of our best and finest soldiers had been lost. And the thing is, they didn't need to be lost. But Kamala Harris was in the room. She was in the Situation Room making those same incompetent decisions with Joe Biden. And like I said, you think Joe Biden's record is bad? You think you don't like 20 million illegal immigrants coming into our country? Kamala Harris, I guarantee you, wants 40 million coming into our country, right? You think Joe Biden hasn't been able to fix the American economy? In fact, he's actually made Jimmy Carter look like a lightweight. What on earth makes anybody think cackling Kamala from California in all of her incompetency, who, as I said, the White House has been keeping somewhere in a closet for the last 4 years, is going to do anything to help Americans afford homes, bring down the price of groceries? I got a text from someone today who said, I'm sorry, I just got to tell you this. I'm at Costco right now, and 2 years ago when I had my baby daughter, Bailey, the cost of formula was $22 a pack. It's now $42. They said, I'm barely affording this. I don't know how anybody's affording this. This is baby formula. We're talking about baby formula, okay? Right? Talk about essentials, talking about things that we can't go without. Our children are vulnerable because of the economic calamity that the Biden-Harris administration has created. And like I said, well, sure, Bidenomics is laid bare at Joe Biden at Biden's feet. Don't forget, it's Kamala Harris who has been the cackling co-pilot to all of this, and she's even more liberal, even more extreme than Joe Biden. Joe Biden might bow to California liberals, but cold hard truth is Kamala Harris is a good old-fashioned California liberal. Take it from me. That's my home state. She wrecked California long before she's had a chance to wreck this nation. But it doesn't have to all be doom and gloom. As I said, we just came off of a phenomenal week in Milwaukee, where you heard from Americans who have suffered under Joe Biden, and you saw the hope that they've placed in President Trump, and you saw President Trump's competency on stage. You saw his strength. As you said, I just took a bullet for democracy. You also saw his running mate, J.D. Vance, who we're so proud to have on our ticket. J.D. Vance said it best. Kamala Harris wants to come after J.D. Vance saying, oh, he's not loyal to the country. Good luck, Kamala. As J.D. Vance said best himself, he served in the United States Marine Corps, and he's built one hell of a business career. What the hell has she done besides collect a check and been left to cackle in a closet somewhere in the West Wing, only to be ruled out as a last resort?
One of my friends joked to me earlier today that the only reason Kamala is running for president is because she didn't want to debate J.D. Vance. And there might be something to that. I think he would have ripped her to shreds.
Well, good luck with President Trump, too.
I was going to say that's out of the frying pan and into the fire. Before we let you go, at this point, I guess it's too early to talk about debates because we don't even know who the president's going to be debating, even though it seems that Kamala is the early front runner. But from here on out, I guess the message coming out of the Trump campaign is this doesn't really change our strategy much as all. The left is the left. Their record is their record. I do want to ask you, you've been around the president now for a while. We know that an assassin attempted to take his life last week in Pennsylvania. Has he changed? There's been plenty of commentary about how he seemed a little more mellow on the stage in Milwaukee. I sometimes think we can overread the tea leaves, but does he seem like a different Trump at all in any way?
I've been asked this question a lot in the last week, as you can imagine.
I bet.
And I've thought about it, and I actually think it may be the country that has changed. President Trump surviving the assassin's bullet and the incredible display of strength that he showed in those immediate moments after, getting on his feet with blood still on his face, very much still in harm's way, and saying, fight, fight, fight. Those images now belong to the ages, and it was a watershed moment for our country. I think what's maybe changed is the American people realizing how close they may have come to losing the hope for their future. If President Trump had not survived, I think I have heard from so many Americans, unsolicited text messages on social media, people I've never heard from saying, I get it. If President Trump, if not him, then who? You know, who's going to secure a border? Who's going to help our economy become a place where the American dream is affordable and attainable again, where families can afford to feed their babies? Who's going to bring peace to the world stage? Who's going to make us respected again? Who's going to bring America out of this American nightmare? And of course, it's President Trump, who I really think is the last great hope for Americans, and that's what has changed in the country. I think you see a stoicism and a resilience reflected in President Trump. But you also see some of his best attributes shining through. He is candid. He is humorous. He's funny. He's strong. And as he said on that stage, I'm going to talk about this one time, and then I'm never going to talk about it again. This is the only time you'll hear from me about it because it was so painful. But I think what you see reflected in President Trump is this stoicism, this resilience. This is a man who now belongs to a unique category of people who have had a brush with death and survived. And I think about how President Trump always talks about he fights for the forgotten men and women of this country. And I see reflected in him a man who is carrying the memories of all of those forgotten men and women who are gone but not forgotten with him, and very much carrying their presence on his shoulders. I'm thinking of Corey Comparator, who was killed by the assassin's bullet at our Pennsylvania rally, died protecting his wife, died protecting his children. You saw President Trump honor him in Milwaukee on that stage with Corey's firefighter uniform. I'm thinking of the 13 U.S. service members no longer with us. I'm thinking of Weston Fundman, a young American boy killed by fentanyl poisoning, by fentanyl that's been allowed in by the tons to this country under Biden and Harris. I'm thinking of Laken Riley, Jocelyn Nungare, Rachel Morin. I see in President Trump a man who is carrying forth the weight of the memories of those forgotten men and women who are gone but not forgotten with him, ready to fight, as he said, and unify this country, and carrying that on his shoulders and carrying it with grit and grace and strength and hope for the American people.
I'll tell you what, Phil, we're lucky to have President Trump, and we're also lucky to have Caroline Sunshine on tonight's program, Trump campaign deputy comms director, and somebody with a perfect name, if I may say so, for an optimistic, forward-facing campaign that's trying to turn this country around. We really appreciate the time you made for us tonight, and please keep us in the Delaware Valley here in the loop as the campaign continues. Apparently we're a battleground this year. That seems to be the case, and now there's talk of maybe Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, angling for a position on Kamala's ticket. So we'll see. To be determined. I don't think it's going to make a difference, Caroline, but that's just me.
No, we are Trump tough. This country is, like I said, Donald Trump's unified this party behind him. He's ready to unify the country. It's been so great to come on. Thank you for having me, and don't give up the ship.
We will not. Caroline Sunshine, thank you for joining us. Trump campaign deputy comms director. I am Matt Rooney. This is The Matt Rooney Show. Let's take a break, and we'll be back with more coverage of today's big news in just a moment.
Summer is here, which means pool days, beach trips, and yeah, you guessed it, traffic jams. Oh yeah, and heat waves. Don't let summer catch you by surprise. Get the local news you need, no matter what you're up to, with the free Odyssey app, and never miss a beat with alerts on breaking stories sent directly to your phone. Listen today on the free Odyssey app. That's AUDACY.
Are you dealing with tax debt or unfiled tax returns and don't know how to make the problem go away? Is just the thought of dealing with the IRS giving you a panic attack? Let Legal Tax Defense take the pressure off of you. All tax relief companies are not the same, and all tax problems are complex and different. If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS, the experienced tax attorneys and licensed enrolled agents can resolve the toughest cases. For over 15 years, Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating settlements for individuals and businesses just like you. All of their online ratings are A+. Even if you've received a threatening notice from the IRS, facing a wage garnishment, or have had your bank account levied, it's not too late to call Legal Tax Defense for a free, no-risk consultation. Get peace of mind and security knowing you hired the best. Call Legal Tax Defense at 800-469-1635. 800-469-1635. That's 800-469-1635.
Feel like everything's clouded by doubt? Visit CaliforniaPsychics.com. Our psychics are available to talk 24/7, and we guarantee if it's not life-changing, it's free. Experience the joy of certainty. California Psychics.
Snakes, zombies, public speaking. The list of fears is endless. But the real danger is in your hand when you're behind the wheel. Distracted driving is what's really scary and even deadly. Eyes forward. Don't drive distracted. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Don't miss The Education Show with Dom Giordano every Sunday morning at 5:30. Find out how you can help your child or grandchild succeed. Sponsored by New Hope Academy.
Virtua Health, real patients, real doctors, real complex cases. Take one.
Open heart surgery, tear in my aorta.
The most complex cases come to us at Virtua Health.
I'm sure I wouldn't have been here without you.
Being a 45-year-old, not being able to walk up one flight of stairs, I had no idea I was in heart failure.
Virtua is a premier heart failure center in South Jersey.
They changed my life. It's truly a blessing.
Want to follow our stories? Go to Virtua.org. Virtua Health, here for good.
Call 811 if you have some groundwork to do. Utilities are under you, and it's all good until they spew. Oops, now all on your lawn. It smells like a porta-john. Should've just called 811. It's a real human stinky bomb.
Call 811 before you dig and help us hit 50 and 5. 50% less damage to buried utilities in 5 years. For more info, visit pa1call.org.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6481. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-575-6481. That's 800-575-6481.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Hey, it's Nick. Recently, I visited my friends at Piazza Mazda in Westchester to check out the 2024 Mazda CX-30. The dynamic CX-30 offers 8 different trim levels, creating a perfect fit for every lifestyle. When it comes to performance, iActive all-wheel drive is standard, and the available turbocharged engines pack a surprising punch. Safety features such as blind spot monitoring and lane assist led the 2024 CX-30, earning a 5-star overall safety rating. Visit Piazza Mazda in Westchester, Reading, or online, piazzamazda.com.
Get ready for huge politics and pints as Talk Radio 1210 welcomes Donald Trump Jr. It's Tuesday, July 30th at the Scottish Rite Auditorium in Collingswood. Join Dom Giordano and Donald Trump Jr. as they talk the election, recent events, and all things Trump. Your ticket includes a copy of Letters to Trump by former President Trump. A cash bar will be available. Get your tickets now at 1210WPHT.com. Hey, Ambler. We know your favorite station is Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. Follow us anywhere on the free Odyssey app.
So a ton is happening while we're on air tonight. It's just one of those weeks. Having a Sunday show is supposed to be easy, Phil. In this cycle, everything's happening on the weekend.
I was going to say,
luckily,
no
I'm up
show
to it.
until now and Election Day will be easy.
No.
Because you're going to always have lots of content to discuss, whatever that content is.
Yes, and then maybe I'll just take off until Christmas. No, I'm just kidding. I love hanging out with our entire audience here at the Matt Rooney Show and the 1210 WPHT. You all know that. But would I mind if maybe the news cycle was a little more sane sometime? Sure, it'd be better for our country. But hey, we gotta play the deck that we're dealt. As I said, things happening off air tonight, and I'm continuing to monitor them. We started out tonight's program at 7 o'clock with a pretty clear split in the Democrat Party. You had some major voices, including the Clintons, Joe Biden, come out and endorse Kamala Harris now that Biden's decided to not seek re-election only a little more than 100 days before Election Day. There's some coalescing happening. I'm wondering if maybe some people are having their arms twisted. Governor Phil Murphy, who initially said nothing, of New Jersey, has now endorsed Kamala Harris. That's just been reported by David Wildstein over at the New Jersey Globe. I also saw on my X news feed that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who once drugged me on Twitter, by the way. That's a story to save for a slower news cycle if we ever get one, Phil. But in any event, AOC is now endorsing Kamala as well after initially suggesting that she wanted a more open process. She's not a very good progressive, folks. Another Democrat who talks a good game, but at the end of the day serves herself and falls in line. So we'll see what happens. We're still not even 24 hours out from this seismic event. So could some sort of challenge to Kamala Harris present itself? I guess. But it's looking pretty good for her right now, at least in terms of securing the nomination. And for Republicans, as Caroline Sunshine just illustrated a moment ago, spokesperson for the Trump campaign, that's probably best case scenario. Someone else, a Josh Shapiro, even a Gretchen Whitmer, a Newsom, not that they don't have plenty of warts that they'd have to grapple with. They don't own the Biden-Harris record like Harris does, because she's been there and she's failed spectacularly in full view of the American people, besides being just thoroughly personally unlikable. So, I think any Republican would tell you honestly, if they were being honest with you, that they would have preferred to run against Joe Biden. He was the known quantity. There's tons of polling, both internal and external, showing he was vulnerable. But Kamala, they're fine running against her too. And I think you heard the confidence from the Trump campaign. 855-839-1210 is the number. Don't forget, in our third and final hour coming up here in just a little bit, we're going to be joined by PR expert, former Penn State adjunct Dan Cerrucci, regular guest on this show, and also our good buddy Tom Szymanski, a Jersey boy through and through, and a national Republican consultant. He's worked House races, House campaigns. He's worked on a gubernatorial campaign. He's worked on a U.S. Senate campaign. He knows the mechanics of the stuff. We're going to analyze every single angle of today's big story and also get into the Republican convention and the latest on the Trump assassination attempt. There is a hearing tomorrow on Capitol Hill at which the head of the Secret Service is supposed to be there, and there's speculation that she may not survive the week, that she may be resigning or she may get sacked. And why should she be? Every single day since that fateful moment out in Butler, Pennsylvania, we learn a new angle that makes me say to myself, and I consider myself a relatively grounded, non-conspiratorial person, that this just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. Something is wrong with this narrative. You have a site with a known vulnerability that, forget whether or not you have any security experience, Phil. Anybody that's ever played a video game could look at this field in Pennsylvania and see this relatively, I know they're calling it a sloped roof, but it's a pretty gradual slope, right?
Very gradual.
Well within sniper range of where the president was speaking, and no one covered it. There wasn't a drone. They didn't sweep it and find the gun, which apparently was hid behind an air conditioner. Trump supporters were there and pointed it out to police and Secret Service, and nothing was done. It just doesn't make sense. I usually say, assuming competence before conspiracy. It's a lot harder to pull off a conspiracy, and we know that there are a lot of incompetent, stupid people out there. But we also know how much the deep state hates Donald Trump. We can't discount that. Consider the FBI that's currently investigating, or at least they're supposed to be investigating, this assassination attempt, is the same FBI that's been trying to frame Donald Trump and take Donald Trump down politically from the moment he set foot in the Oval Office. Can we trust anything they come out with? I don't think so. My name's not Alex Jones. My formidable head is not wrapped in tinfoil. I wouldn't want to hide this luscious head of hair, Phil, from the people that watch over on YouTube, youtube.com/@1210WPHT. But it doesn't make any sense. And when your brain tells you that something doesn't make sense, chances are something is being hidden from you. What we can't say, Phil, is why. Why have there not been, for example, daily briefings on this investigation by the FBI or by the Secret Service, which is something you'd expect when there's a high-profile assassination attempt. This isn't something that happens every day, thank God, in our country. It's a rare event. The last time a president was shot was Ronald Reagan, and that was over 40 years ago. Why are they being quiet? Why are they not giving us more details as to why, for example, Trump requests for additional security were denied? There's no good faith explanation. Either these are the dumbest Secret Service senior agents that the agency has ever had, or something sinister is afoot here. Does that make me sound crazy, Phil? You're one of the people around here that keeps me grounded.
No, absolutely
You're never
not.
afraid to disagree with me.
I am not afraid to disagree with you when you need to be disagreed with, but in this case, you are 100% correct.
And Trump is asking those questions, too, for what it's worth. And I'm sure he would say more, but the man has been extraordinarily disciplined in this election, and I think he's more than fine with people asking the questions for him at this point. This is Cut 13. This is from the interview that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance gave with Jesse Waters over at Fox News. And Trump came out and asked the question about his assassination attempt that I think is on the minds of everyone who witnessed it. Listen.
They were monitoring this guy for an hour beforehand. Yeah. No one told you not to take the stage?
No, nobody mentioned it. Nobody said there was a problem. And I would have waited for 15. They could have said, let's wait for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 minutes, something. Nobody said, I think that was a mistake. How did somebody get on that roof? And why wasn't he reported? Because people saw that he was on the roof. I mean, you had Trumpers screaming. The woman in the red shirt, she was screaming, there's a man on the roof. And then other people said, there's a man on the roof who's got a gun. And that was quite a bit before I walked onto the stage. So you would have thought somebody would have done something about it.
You would have thought someone would do something about it unless they weren't all that concerned with Donald Trump's safety. Some of you that are lefties that listen to this show and you listen to this program, even if you don't like to admit it in polite company, it can be our little secret. You're angry by me saying this. You're angry by me saying this. But here's something that'll maybe make you feel a little bit better. Okay, about getting a little bit wacky with this whole thing. Even Democrats, okay, many of them believe that something was fishy here. And there was plenty of craziness going on in the opposite direction. There's one poll, and I'm trying to find it in my stack here, but I had put so much stuff in here. Here it is. It's from the Morning Consult. 1/3 of Democrats believe the conspiracy theory that Trump staged the assassination attempt.
I've seen videos of people basically thinking it was staged, too, on X and Twitter, whatever you want to call it.
But 1/3 of Democrats.
Yeah, 34%. That was
from a major polling outfit. This was released on Monday. Large swaths of the Democrat base apparently believe the conspiracy. Let's see. It's 34% of Democrat voters found it either definitely or probably credible that Trump staged Saturday's shooting. And this is from Free Beacon, by the way, with less than half, 45%, saying the conspiracy theory is not credible. By comparison, a widely cited 2021 poll found that only 23% of Republicans were QAnon believers. So some of you are going to say, I'm nuts for suggesting that there might be more to this attempt on Donald Trump's life than meets the eye. I'll just give you another example. Apparently, we found out from a congressman over the weekend that this shooter had overseas encrypted accounts that we don't yet have access to, or at least they're telling us they don't have access to them. What's that all about, right? At a time that we know that Iran has been trying to kill President Trump. So just think about that for a second. But you're going to tell me I'm crazy for suggesting there may be a larger conspiracy afoot here. This is 1/3 of the Democrat Party that thinks that Donald Trump wanted to what? He had a death wish? He wanted to die? He wanted to get shot in the ear? Do not tell me that it's the Republican base that is cuckoo bananas. The Democrat base, which is now led by Kamala Harris and has the likes of AOC populating it, or at least populating its leadership circles, has it all over the Republican Party when it comes to crazy. The Democrat coalition is out of its gourd, and it's one of the reasons why Republicans are beginning to make headway in the Electoral College. Americans can smell crazy. Normal, rational people smell crazy. Whether it be in a presidential election or whether you be in a bar at the shore with your friends in the summer and they're talking to a guy or a girl that you know just nuts and you warn them away from them. We've all been in that situation, Phil. And you're trying to communicate with your friend via telekinesis saying, move, move, move. Right? Just get away. The American people know it. 1/3 of Democrats at least don't. So I don't know. We'll see where all this ends up. We're in uncertain territory here. But one thing I can say is it does look like the Democrat Party is coalescing around Kamala Harris. I have, it won't surprise most of you to hear me say this, I have a low degree of confidence we'll ever find out exactly what happened to Butler, Pennsylvania. Because there's people that probably don't want us to know what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. I am, and over in the chat, Lucy Liu, over at youtube.com/@1210WPHT. She calls them assassination deniers. That's right, Lucy Liu. That's what we should do. There's climate deniers, right? Election deniers. We need to start calling them assassination deniers. Let's play by their rules, right? No, we don't play by their rules. We steal from their playbook. Fight fire with fire. That's what we need to do. 855-839-1210 is the number. More I want to say, but we're coming up here on the end of the hour. Time flies when you're having fun, and we have one more very impactful hour of the Matt Rooney Show lying ahead. Dan Cerrucci, Tom Szymanski, much more on today's big story. Joe Biden hanging it up, the aftermath of the Trump assassination attempt, everything else we can possibly fit in. More information than the CDC says is safe to fit into one program, but we do it anyway. Maskless, proud, and unafraid here on 1210 WPHT. This is the Matt Rooney Show. I am Matt Rooney. Go fill that coffee mug and be back here in just a second.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6986. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-575-6986. That's 800-575-6986.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
When you need to know, depend on KYW News Radio 103.9 FM.
At least 3 people have been killed and 7 others wounded as gunfire hit a crowd at a planned event in West Philadelphia. Police have arrested a woman in a Thursday shooting that injured a 7-month-old in the Northeast. Israel bombed a Houthi oil facility after a Houthi drone killed one person in Israel.
Get the latest anytime on KYW News Radio. Now on Crystal Clear 103.9 FM.
You've never needed us more.
This is Jonathan Cans, third-generation owner of Marvin E. Cans Heating and Air Conditioning. Have you recently had an HVAC tech at your home to fix your unit and he wanted to sell you all types of upgrades? Look, if your AC unit is acting unruly this summer and needs to be fixed, we'll send out one of our technicians to do one thing: fix your AC. And if we do think you need a new one, we'll have one of our factory-trained install teams put in a new state-of-the-art train cooling system to keep you cool. Visit us at marvinecans.com. That's marvinecans.com.
Serving in Vietnam, a grenade took my ability to see. I'm Michael Naranjo, and I'm a veteran. Today, I'm a sculptor. My fingers are my eyes.
DAV helps veterans like Michael get the benefits they've earned. They help more than 1 million veterans every year.
With DAV, more veterans can shape their lives into a thing of beauty. My victory is bringing beauty into the world.
Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
I answered the call, and even though I no longer wear the uniform, I am still a Marine, still serving those around me, my country, and my community. That is Semper Fidelis, always faithful. always Marine.
WPHT, WPHT HD, WOGL HD3 Philadelphia. From the Cherry Hill Volvo Studios, where relationships matter. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
I'm Heather Bosch.
I completely respect the fact that he stepped aside at this point.
A voter reacting to President Biden's decision to drop his re-election bid. Biden is endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic presidential nominee, even though Biden already has the votes. CBS's John Dickerson explains.
Joe Biden is the nominee, which means the entire Democratic process made him the party nominee. To unwind that means taking care of some sensitivities and bruised feelings that might be out there as a way to get the party unified to then go forward.
CBS's Scott McFarland says Vice President Harris is getting some quick support.
She picked up a block of Senate endorsements and picked them up quickly, nearly 24 by our CBS News count, and it's some of the lions of the U.S. Senate,
including Senators Patty Murray and Elizabeth Warren. But is Harris ready? Here's what she told CBS's Margaret Brennan last year.
Even Democrats are worried about the president's age. The Wall Street Journal had a poll showing 2/3 of Democrats say Joe Biden is too old to run again. Are you prepared to be commander-in-chief?
Yes, I am, if necessary.
If she wins the nomination, Harris will have little time to pick her own vice president. CBS's Weijia Jiang reports.
Names have already started to surface, including Democratic governors who could appeal to swing state voters. Roy Cooper of North Carolina.
North Carolina welcomes back Vice President Kamala Harris to Greensboro to get ready to defeat Donald Trump in November.
Who just stumped with Harris in his state on Thursday. Pennsylvania's Josh Shapiro and Andy Beshear of Kentucky. Harris could also tap a member of the Biden cabinet.
So what do voters think about all this? Here's CBS's Jim Axelrod.
This was another weekend of bold-faced headlines to be digested by voters, like Richard Freeman in Ohio, a Democrat.
I think it's a good decision. I think he didn't have a chance against Trump.
This retired bar owner in Michigan had wanted to see the president drop out ever since the debate.
But I think it's a good thing that he did drop out.
There are 107 days until the election. Turning to the assassination attempt on former President Trump, Homeland Security Director Alejandro Mayorkas has named a bipartisan panel now to conduct an independent review of the actions of the Secret Service. This comes amid calls that the director of that agency resign. Kimberly Cheadle is set to testify on Capitol Hill tomorrow. Mr. Trump was injured and one man died. Businesses from airlines to hospitals still working to come back online after a faulty software patch caused a worldwide outage Friday. This is
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
WPHT, WPHT HD, WOGL HD3 Philadelphia. From the Cherry Hill Volvo Studios, where relationships matter. Always live on the free Odyssey app. Live and local with Matt Rooney on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
So, can we finally admit to ourselves, producer Phil, that this whole COVID thing was BS?
Yes. At least the two of us.
No one stays inside for COVID anymore. You know that Joe Biden would be out there licking ice cream cones left and right were it not for the fact that he had some real business at Rehoboth this weekend. He was probably waiting to see whether or not they could meet his price, whatever that might have been, to drop out of the 2024 presidential race. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another stirring edition of the Matt Rooney Show, hour number 3. We made it. Tonight, I think it flew. It never really drags. That's just my opinion, my very biased opinion.
That's the case every week.
It's every week it flies. But tonight we've got plenty to discuss because there is some big news for a second weekend in a row that broke over the weekend, which means it is my duty as a 1210 WPHT host to be all over it. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. We're covering every angle of Joe Biden's decision to leave the presidential race. He's only the second president in 100 years to do so. Last time it happened was LBJ, who in the maelstrom of the Vietnam War decided that he couldn't get reelected, stepped aside, And, of course, that gave rise to the return of Richard Nixon. So are there some parallels there between Donald Trump and Richard Milhouse Nixon? I know some of our lefty friends would say there are some negative parallels that they would like to highlight, but I think there's some positive comparisons between Trump and Nixon. For example, two guys that were able to build a large and powerful coalition out of those who felt that they were disenfranchised in America. Nixon called it the silent majority. For Trump, it's MAGA. It's the blue-collar, working-class Americans, those that have put themselves through school, those that make just enough money where they don't get the free government cheese, right? They're not entitled to all the goodies the Democrats like to give out to buy their voters. But they're certainly not rich enough to be immune from market forces. And those market forces have worked for the rich, well-heeled coastal elites over the last few decades, but have left plenty of Americans behind, including right here in our Delaware Valley, in which the Matt Rooney Show and this station are based. So it's no mystery as to what's happening out there tonight. But will Kamala Harris, who seems to be, as we speak on this program tonight, there's more endorsements coming out. She's got about 24 U.S. senators, Democrat senators endorsing her now. As the Democrat Party appears to coalesce around her, Democrats actually in any better shape. What happens next? We're going to be joined here in just a little bit by two of our regular pundits here on the Matt Rooney Show. Tom Szymanski, my good buddy, a national political consultant for the Grand Old Party, and Dan Cerrucci, a regular at this station, proprietor of dancerrucci.com, a former PR professional and professor at Penn State. They're going to help us break all of this down. And I have confidence by the time this program is done, Phil, everyone listening will be able to begin their Monday prepared for warfare with their liberal office worker colleagues who want to try to pretend that they're happy about Kamala Harris. You're going to be fully equipped to push back against whatever narrative is strewn in your path as soon as you enter the office on Monday morning. 855-839-1210 is the number here at the station. Over on YouTube, youtube.com/@1210WPHT. Aldine says our country went to hell after 1963 thanks to LBJ. I think it's probably a fair comment to say that the damage that Biden-Harris have wreaked on this country is comparable to what LBJ did to this country. LBJ and what he did in Vietnam and his ruinous domestic policies, they weren't just bad, right? They didn't create a temporary economic dislocation that was uncomfortable for people who lived through the 60s. It scarred this country in many ways. And not only doomed millions to poverty with the Great Society, but also the Vietnam experience diminished American power and our influence overseas, and has changed the way Americans look at global affairs. Even to this day, Vietnam is something that evokes very strong emotions in many Americans over half a century after the war ended. Joe Biden, I think you could argue in a different way, it's been a similar experience. So though even LBJ, during the depths of the Cold War, I guess he arguably brought us close to World War III with Vietnam, but Joe is rapidly trying to catch up before the end of his term here. Trump said it very well during the convention. Planet of war, I think, is the way that the former president, 45 and maybe soon 47, put it when he took to the podium and delivered a 93-minute speech. I watched it during my beach vacation, Phil, and I will be honest. I appreciate the president. I'm voting for the president. I become a fan of Donald Trump. 93 minutes, it got a little tough there at the end. And I've been to 2 Trump rallies. It was a slog. He likes to talk, that guy. But I'll tell you what, some of the pundits naturally wanted to try to say it was a negative thing, that he missed an opportunity, he should have given a conciser, tighter speech. Consider the state of play at the time Donald Trump gave that address. He was running against an 80-something-year-old Joe Biden who can't get through 9 minutes coherently. A 93-minute speech without a single flub That's impressive and quite a contrast. Now, of course, the contest has now changed. He's likely to face Kamala Harris, who I don't know if it's appropriate to say she's more coherent. Often what she says lacks coherence. Often it's nonsensical. I don't think she's in the grips of dementia. I just think she's a thoroughly stupid person. And I think the American people, if they don't know it already, are about to find that out, painfully so, very soon. I can't wait for the debates, Phil. I'll say that much. It's going to
be very interesting.
A laugh riot. She does know that she can't pull out a whiteboard and draw a Venn diagram on the stage. Someone's going to have to explain that to her. Although with the networks, who the heck knows, right? Maybe they'll try to work that in somehow for her.
Maybe get a green screen, have a Venn diagram behind her when she's speaking.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. 855-839-1210 is the number here at the Matt Rooney Show, by the way, too, if you want to call in. Don't know if we're going to have time tonight, to be brutally honest with you. But if you want to try to get in line, if you have something worthwhile to say, obviously, we would love to hear from you. The polling after the convention, by the way, and after the assassination attempt, helps illustrate why the pressure built on Joe Biden to get the heck out of the race. There's a Detroit Free Press poll, which dropped over the weekend. Trump up 7 points in Michigan versus Joe Biden. 7 points in Michigan, folks. I didn't say North Carolina or Georgia, right, which might be a little less surprising. Michigan, a state which I don't think had voted Republican for president since 1988 until Trump flicked it in 2016. It's no wonder the donors decided, these Hollywood elites, that they weren't going to fund that thing anymore, that thing being Biden-Harris 2024. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, NBC is reporting that they're not necessarily more enamored with Kamala Harris. I'll put it this way. If you want my take, and I'm assuming you do because you're listening, I don't think many Democrats actually think that Kamala is that much stronger of a candidate. I think sometimes in life you realize that you have a sure loser, and so you just decide that you have to take a chance on something else. And I really do think this is what this boils down to. They were pretty sure they were going to lose with Joe. Maybe there's a chance Kamala can do better, even though she could end up being just as big or a bigger anchor around the ankles of Democrats. And let's also not forget the clear political reality of this situation. We're talking of Kamala Harris's candidacy for president as if it's a fully free choice. What happens if Democrats decide we're going to pass over Kamala Harris because we think that Josh Shapiro is a better candidate for president? By the way, Josh Shapiro would probably be a stronger candidate for president for Democrats for a lot of obvious reasons, even though a Shapiro fan I am not. You would rip the Democrat Party to shreds if they passed over a woman of color for a white man. Democrats, and I don't think enough is being made of this in the analysis, in the aftermath of Joe Biden's departure from the race, their identity politics has helped them build a coalition, a grievance coalition, over the course of over the course of decades. But it's also put them in a box where they can't even pick the best candidate for fear of aggrieving certain cleavages of that grievance coalition. For the Republican Party, it would be a very simple question, not because of who she is, but it just so happens that this woman of color, Kamala Harris, is an idiot with a terrible governing record. It should be easy to cast her aside and replace her with a relatively moderate, competent governor. Notice I said relatively, because you got grade on a curve with today's Democrat Party. But they can't, because this is the paradigm they've created for themselves. That the most important thing about somebody is not who they are, meaning the content of their character and how they perform and how quality they are and how prepared they are for the challenges associated with high office. It's all about the superficialities, the color of their skin, where they came from, their gender, assuming they have a gender. Being a woman definitely checks a box for Democrats, even though they can't tell you what a woman is if you ask them directly. So in a very interesting and a very real and in some respects hilarious way, the Democrats' own worldview may be what destroys them here. That they couldn't replace Joe with a quality candidate because of the DEI worldview that they have been pushing on everyone else and that they've adopted for themselves. Couldn't happen to nicer people, Phil. 855-839-1210 is the number. Let's take a break, and then let's get back with our panel. Dan Cerrucci, Tom Szymanski. We're going to break everything down here on the Matt Rooney Show on 1210 WPHT.
Jim Cipriotti at Retire Ready Financial Group doesn't need Google to know you're worried about retirement. Between inflation, rising taxes, and the uncertainty about Social Security, he understands. That's why he offers a complimentary retirement second opinion. It's a no-obligation meeting for you to talk about your concerns about retirement. You want to know if you're going to be okay? Let's find out. 610-894-7415 or go online, retirereadyfg.com.
Insurance and annuities offered through James V. Cipriotti, NPN number 2083768.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. If you own a timeshare, don't miss this public service announcement from Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group.
If you receive an unsolicited phone call or mail piece to discuss selling, renting, or especially canceling your timeshare, don't fall for it. If you really want out of your timeshare, hang the phone up immediately or throw that mail piece in the trash and contact your timeshare resort or Wesley Financial Group for assistance with your timeshare. As the only Inc. 500 timeshare cancellation company, our knowledge, experience, and results has made Wesley a trusted resource for over 40,000 families we've helped get out of their timeshare. Give us a call, and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about your timeshare and all of your options for cancellation.
Call for your free info kit, 800-329-2121. 800-329-2121. 800-329-2121.
Maybe it's time to take a fresh look at everything we thought we knew about landing a great job. For instance, what if phenomenal careers start at the middle school science fair instead of at the job fair? If being the captain of the robotics team means just as much on a college application as being captain of the football team. And if knowing the quadratic formula is every bit as important as knowing the right people. Well, the fact is, the jobs of the future will be heavily geared towards science, technology, engineering, and math. In other words, the future is STEM. More opportunities, better pay. And the road to these great jobs starts as early as middle school. So if you're a student, talk to your school counselor about STEM. If you're a parent, talk to your kids. Because the job you'll get in the future may very well depend on what you do today. A public service message from America's Navy.
1210 WPHT, Sterling every damn night. Monday through Friday at 9, Sunday at 10. It never ends. The horror never stops. You and I get to talk live because it's a live radio show. Oh my God. Plus,
the light touch on my skin drove me wild. I tilted my face upward. Our instant attraction to each other had been simmering for weeks, and I was ready for it to be unleashed. The decision had been made. I want to be your bad girl tonight.
Sterling every damn night. 1210 WPHT.
Don't let woke win. Follow 1210 WPHT on the free Odyssey app. Download it now.
Do you need another reason, moms and dads out there, to vote for Trump Vance in 2024? I can give you one from CNN of all places. Out today, several European nations have reintroduced or expanded compulsory military service amid Moscow's mounting threat, part of a range of policies aimed at boosting defenses that are likely to be scaled up even further. We are coming to the realization that we may need to adjust the way we mobilize for war and adjust the way we produce military equipment and we recruit and train personnel, said Robert Hamilton, head of Eurasia Research at the Foreign Policy Research Institute, who served as a U.S. Army officer for 30 years. It is tragically true that here we are in 2024, and we are grappling with the questions of how to mobilize millions of people to be thrown into a meat grinder of war potentially. But this is where Russia has put us. So Remember when they were assuring us over and over again that this was not going to be a boots on the ground kind of thing for anybody but the Ukrainians themselves? Now they're saying the quiet part out loud. As we now enter an advanced phase of this war, it continues to grind on. A meat grinder, their words, not me. We have European powers talking about conscription, something we haven't seen in this country since the Vietnam War. There's Vietnam again coming up plenty tonight. I mean, look, I am not one of these conservative pundits that's going to sit here and try to create some kind of moral equivalence between Ukraine and Russia. Putin's a bad guy for a host of reasons, independent of anyone else, but primarily in my mind because he has set himself up now as a client state and a client power of the ever-expanding Chinese empire, which presents the existential foreign policy threat for this country of the 21st century. But a republic is supposed to be judicious and careful in its use of hard power. And the most precious hard power we have is when we take young American men or women, if the Democrats have their way, and put them in harm's way directly by sending them overseas, armed with rifles, to kill young men and women from another country. Sometimes there's no getting around it, and that's happened sometimes in our history. But it should always be the option of last resort. But you don't get the sense that for the current D.C. establishment, they look at it as a last resort. I think they look at it as the means to an end to advance their worldview. I think that those that are involved with the military-industrial complex see these young men and women in something like conscription for what it would be to them, a boon to their coffers. So our country is very much out of whack right now. We need balance in the force, to use another Star Wars analogy. Carolyn Sunshine from the Trump campaign was on earlier, and she used one. I'm going to use one now. Need to restore balance of the force. We need Trump and Vance to make Americans rethink rushing into war and whether or not armed conflict is always the right first option when we're confronted with an international challenge. Sometimes, again, you have no choice, right? Sometimes Pearl Harbor gets bombed. Sometimes the Twin Towers are brought down and the military response is appropriate. Other times, for example, you look at the Iraq War with the benefit of hindsight and you say, you know what? Was the Middle East really more stable for that intervention? What did we accomplish? And that's before you even get to the WMD question. 855-839-1210. That's always the problem with the Matt Rooney Show. So many things to talk about. But let's get to the main event here. Our guests, our panel for the 9 o'clock hour. He is a national Republican consultant. He's worked in many House races, House cycles. He's worked U.S. Senate races. He's worked gubernatorial campaigns. His highest and greatest accolade is he is a good friend of yours truly, not just because I enjoy his company, but because he always makes sense, even when he's not always trying. Tom Szymanski, welcome to the Matt Rooney Show, my friend.
Great to be back, Matt. Usually it's a slow news day for your show, but biggest story in decades today.
Well, I was joking with Phil earlier. I could use a slow cycle sometimes just to kind of catch up, but it just doesn't happen. The universe isn't going that way, but we'll deal with it as it comes. And we're also joined this hour by another good buddy of mine. He is a PR expert, former public relations professor at Penn State. He is the proprietor of DanCerrucci.com, knows how to turn a phrase like no one else. He's here's how I like to look at you, Dan. You are a Peggy Noonan, but a man and not obnoxious. Dan Cerrucci, everyone.
Yeah, that's a very high compliment. Thank you, Matt. And it is a very, very historic day. It's the first time that a sitting president has announced that he's not going to run since 1968, March 31st, 1968. I remember it well. I was there. I lived through it, Matt.
And you were at the convention, correct?
Yes, I was in 1968 in Chicago, absolutely.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's some things that are obviously different, some things that are the same. But for the benefit of Tom and myself, who weren't alive at the time, and plenty of other people in the audience, Dan, What parallels do you see between now and then?
Well, for one thing, it was a chaotic year for Democrats. For another, as I said, the president said he wasn't going to run, and that left the vice president at that time, Hubert Humphrey, sort of as the front runner. The difference then was, however, that there were already candidates running against the incumbent president, Johnson, that being Gene McCarthy and Bobby Kennedy. And, of course, Bobby Kennedy was assassinated in June of that year, and so the only viable candidate to challenge Humphrey at the convention at that time, and I guess you would say that he came from what is now what we would call the progressive wing of the Democrat Party, was Gene McCarthy. And you know, it was the same type of thing in the sense that the elites and the power brokers and the bosses and everybody else lined up against the incumbent vice president, who then, and this is another parallel, the incumbent vice president then had to go on and carry the burden of the record of the president that he was serving. And as the nominee, he had that noose around his neck, so to speak, that albatross. And, of course, he lost in the end, Hubert Humphrey.
History repeats itself, Mr. Szymanski.
Yeah, Dan makes some really great points, as always, I might add. But in 2020, I was working for a congressman in Minnesota who you are familiar with, Matt, and listeners of this station will be familiar with probably, Congressman Jason Lewis. If they don't know him from his time in Congress, they will know him as a regular fill-in on the old Rush Limbaugh show.
That's right, a radio great, and had a very prolific program in his own right. He was on a ton of stations.
He was nationally syndicated, for sure. So in the summer of 2020, obviously, we had COVID lockdowns. We had the George Floyd riots in Minnesota. The congressman and I toured block after block of bombed out, burned down buildings that looked like Fallujah, Iraq. Not that I would know. I have not served in the military. But that being said, I remember asking him at the time, is this comparable to the 1960s in any way? I'm a millennial. I was not born in the 60s. I've not lived through them. And he said, it's very comparable, except one thing makes it worse. The adults were still in charge in the 60s. Now the lunatics occupy the halls of Congress. The people who were burning stuff in the 60s and tearing down statues didn't hold power. Now they do. And that's what arguably makes the time we're living through a little bit more frightening.
No, that's it, right, Dan? I mean, the radicals are no longer on the outside looking in. They're not sitting in at the administration building on campus. They're the administrators. Kamala Harris is not a fringe congresswoman like AOC. She is now, you got to say, I think, after what we've been seeing happen during the course of tonight's program, Democrat after Democrat come out and endorse her. She is the front runner for the Democrat nomination, and she is a very, very far left politician. She is not a moderate by any stretch of the imagination. Joe Biden kind of had a centrist phase at one point in his life. Kamala never has.
Yeah, and if the Republicans expose her record, okay, and some of the things she said and some of the policies she has carried out as senator and when she was Attorney General of California, and of course she comes from one of the most radical states in the union, then people would come to understand this. And I think, Matt, this is one of the reasons why in looking for a vice president to pair with her, the powers that be in the party are very worried. They want to pair her with somebody that appears to be more moderate, like one of these moderate governors like Andy Beshear or Josh Shapiro or maybe even the senator from the retiring senator from West Virginia there. But I don't know whether they're going to be able to pull that off because they have to contend with even people that are even more radical in the Democratic Party, like AOC, who hasn't yet endorsed, gotten into this growing line of people that have endorsed Harris.
Well, so there's a little bit of an update on that, Dan. When I began the program tonight, she was leaning towards we should have a convention. Then about an hour ago, someone got the AOC. Maybe they threatened her weekend bartending job or something, and she has now endorsed Kamala Harris. Phil Murphy has now come down and endorsed Kamala Harris.
Well, there you go.
Despite initial silence. So it seems like whoever is pushing Kamala Harris behind the scenes, Tom, is making progress. But I think Dan raises a very interesting point. I mean, what is her best play for a vice presidential running mate, assuming she is the nominee? And look, I mean, can a Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, in a very important battleground state, can someone like that make a difference in the electoral math, or are Americans going to pass judgment on who's at the top of the ticket? It's not really going to matter a whole heck of a lot.
I take a little bit of a different view of the vice presidential discussion. I think that it's oftentimes a lot of palace intrigue. I think that more often than not, voters tend to make their decision based on who is at the top of the ticket. I don't really encounter anybody who's ever told me that they voted for a ticket because of who the vice president was. And we have had some extraordinary vice presidents throughout history where maybe that's been the case. So I've always viewed the vice presidential nod as sort of a do no harm pick. Pick somebody who can step into the job on day one, who can reinforce the message of the campaign and the presidential candidate, and somebody who's not going to make any gaffes that are going to eat up the news cycle and take the campaign off message. However, if we look at, when it was Biden-Harris, we had a dope at the top of the ticket and a dope for vice president. So now we'll have a dope at the top of the ticket in Kamala. And if she nominates somebody normal, then they've already, that's already a net positive for them because they've gone from 2 dopes on the ticket to 1.
So instead of Dumb and Dumber, we'll have Dumb and slightly less dumb by comparison.
Perfectly stated. But if I were them, that being said, I do think that stories matter. I think that J.D. Vance has a great story. People are going to make their decision on Donald Trump based on Donald Trump. But J.D.'s power as a messenger comes from the personal story that he has lived, which is a powerful one. If you haven't read Hillbilly Elegy, I would encourage everybody listening to do so. So if Kamala picks somebody from a Rust Belt state who can help reclaim some of those white, suburban, non-college, working-class voters that the Democrats have just been bleeding out, that would probably be the smartest pick. But they're not known for always making smart decisions. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I guess that's what it boils down to, right, Tom and Dan, whether or not Democrats make a decision which actually could conceivably help them electorally, or they're once again beholden to their base. If it's people like AOC that are driving the decision, are they going to demand someone that parrots their worldview, which, if you believe the latest polls, is not where the American center is right now?
I agree that I don't think that the vice presidential pick is that critical. I mean, let's go back again to 1968. And, of course, Nixon picked Agnew, Spiro Agnew, the governor of Maryland at that time. Nobody even knew who the hell he was.
Yeah.
And he was, not the brightest bulb, okay? And he was an obscure, really obscure pick. And everybody said, in fact, the Democrats even put out a commercial where they said, it was a little commercial and just said, Vice President Spiro Agnew. And then it was followed by a lot of laughter, people laughing. And it was a very clever commercial. Yeah. I remember it well. But it did not tip the scales. Nixon went ahead and won anyway. It was a very close election, much closer than people thought it was going to be. But Nixon won the election anyway. And, of course, we all knew what happened to Nixon and Agnew. That's another story. But I don't think the vice presidential pick is that critical. And I don't think that Josh Shapiro is going to go on this ticket. I don't think he's going to be inclined to go on this ticket because I think Josh Shapiro, who, by the way, thinks very, 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 very highly of himself, wants to be president of the United States. He will not go on this ticket with Harris unless he is convinced it has a good chance of winning. And I don't think that's going to be easy to convince him of that.
Well, so I think that is a very, very important point, Tom, right? Because we assume, us little people out here who will never be president or vice president of the United States, that being vice president is such a tremendous honor, and many of them have gone on to become president of the United States, that if you have a shot at it, you should take it. But we also know that there's a lot of damage that can be done to someone's political profile if they're on a ticket that ends up hitting an iceberg and crashes badly in November. So if Kamala Harris ends up getting beat by Donald Trump badly, and the polls suggest that that's possible, that could damage the future prospects of a Josh Shapiro or a Bashir or one of these other guys that's currently being floated as a logical Democrat number 2. I mean, what does Tom Szymanski advise one of these guys if you were in the room as an ace political consultant and they said, Tom, what should we do? Should we take a risk on this? And maybe she wins, maybe she doesn't, but does it elevate my profile, or do I risk damaging my brand beyond repair?
Well, there are some political consultants out there who would just tell the principal what they thought they wanted to hear and not rock the boat to collect their paychecks, I guess. But,
yeah, we know a couple of them.
Sure.
1 or 2.
Or 3. I mean, for the life of me, I cannot really recall a losing vice presidential candidate who went on to bigger and better things. Paul Ryan ascended to Speaker of the House after running for vice president and failing in 2012. He earned that position by his standing in the conference, not because he was on the vice presidential ticket. I mean, anyone remember John Edwards from 2004, John Kerry's running mate, the senator from North Carolina who later went on to be embroiled in a scandal with his mistress and use of campaign funds on her while his wife was dying of cancer. I mean, or Joe Lieberman, for that matter, who was a great senator in his own right, Democrat from the state of Connecticut. But after 2000, he didn't go anywhere beyond that. I could go on and on down the list.
Yeah.
It's the rule, not the exception, that a losing vice presidential candidate seizes the mantle and goes on to bear their party standards beyond that. But we do live in unprecedented times. We've experienced a lot of firsts these last several weeks, months, and years. So who knows?
Yeah, who knows? That's the moral of tonight's 3-hour program. Who knows? We're in uncharted waters. We're talking to Tom Szymanski, National GOP political consultant, and our good friend Dan Cerrucci of dancerrucci.com. I think, and Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe let's take a break. I think we got one coming up to play some ads and make some money because we are capitalists around here. Not so much at the upcoming DNC, but here at 1210 WPHT. And Dan and Tom, can I hold you over? Because I want to get to a little bit more on the GOP convention and the aftermath of the assassination attempt.
Anything for the listeners, Matt. You know that.
Oh, he's so selfless, Dan. He's so selfless. You're listening to the Matt Rooney Show. Back with more in just a moment.
Not loving your bathroom? Is the King's Throne looking a little outdated and run down? Let Emmons Design Specialists design a bathroom that you will love and one that Emmons will redo in as little as 1 day. An affordable, maintenance-free bathroom with little to no inconvenience to you and your family. With finance options available, there's really only one problem. Your bathroom will be so nice, your king may never want to come out. Call Emmons today at 856-885-6677 or visit us on our website at callemmons.com.
You can host the best backyard barbecue when you find a professional on Angie to make your backyard the best around. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Inside to outside, repairs to renovations. Get started on the Angie app or visit Angie.com today. You can do this when you Angie that.
For a complete list of Talk Radio 1210 WPHT's contest rules, go to 1210WPHT.com/rules.
At California Psychics, we know that doubt can get in the way of your relationship. One moment you're enjoying a romantic date, the next you're thinking,
is this guy right for me? Could I spend my life with someone who has more hair on his feet than on his head?
Then you realize you've been thinking out loud.
Wait, come back,
Thankfully, California Psychics can clear away the dating doubt. Our accurate psychics are available 24/7 to give you all the guidance you need to make the right relationship choices. California Psychics is the psychic service more people trust. That's why we can guarantee, if it's not life-changing, it's free. Download the app or connect with us at californiapsychics.com. Right now, new customers receive 80% off their first reading. Ah, I can smell love in the air already. Experience the joy of certainty. California Psychics.
Hi, this is Dom Giordano. Get ready for a gift from Rescue Natural Supplements. It's their Christmas in July sale. That's right, the season of giving is making a summer comeback with huge savings. That means all health supplements will be slashed up to 50, 60, even 70% off site-wide. Treat yourself with savings on heart-healthy omega-3s, pain-relieving anti-inflammatories, natural immunity boosters, and so much more. To order, call 800-26-ALIVE, 800-262-5483. Speak to a Rescue product consultant or shop online at res-q.com, res-q.com. Don't miss Rescue's Christmas in July sale. Shop savings up to 70% off all natural solutions for your highs and lows, from high blood pressure, cholesterol, low energy, testosterone. Rescue's got you covered. Hurry on over. Unwrap the joy of a healthier you at res-q.com. Do it today.
This is McGruff the Crime Dog, and I need you to help me take a bite out of crime. Counterfeit products are popping up everywhere. If you think buying them is harmless, think again. Counterfeits are usually made with hazardous and even lethal ingredients that could harm you and others. And the money you paid, it goes right into the hands of criminals. Remember, if you don't know where the products came from, how could you know where the money goes? You're smart. Buy smart. Go for real. Learn more at mcgruffpsa.org. This message is brought to you by the United States Patent and Trademark Office and the National Crime Prevention Council.
Hey, Clementon. We know your favorite station is Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. WPHT.
Back as promised on the Matt Rooney Show. Join this hour with our Matt Rooney Show panel. Yeah, we got one of them too. It ain't just the network guys, Phil. Dan Cerrucci of dancerrucci.com, our resident PR expert, and Tom Szymanski, a confirmed Jersey boy and national Republican consultant with plenty of experience under his belt. Guys, I want to talk about this assassination attempt. Because you're two of the people, and I said to producer Phil before, he's on the list right now, I need people in my life to keep me grounded. I think we all do. And you are two of the people that I occasionally reach out to and say, hey, listen, this thing has been percolating in my brain. Is this crazy? And I know I can trust Dan Cerrucci and Tom Szymanski to tell me, yes, Matt, you're crazy. This assassination attempt, something is wrong here other than the obvious. Tell me if you think I'm off base. There are too many unanswered questions, and I think we know less today than we did over a week ago when those bullets were flying in Butler, Pennsylvania. Tom, let's start with you.
Well, I guess let's start at the beginning. There's, just to recap, and maybe it's been a long weekend, maybe not everyone in the audience is privy to some of all the latest developments, but a 20-year-old who somehow, this day and age, had no online presence or social media posts whatsoever, decides he's going to kill the president. And yet he leaves behind no manifesto or indications of why he did this. Where were the snipers stationed that actually killed him? To the best of my knowledge, we haven't been told that. All we've been told is that the roof the shooter was on was, quote, too sloped. And yet, one of the sniper's locations was on a roof that actually had a higher angle of slope than that particular one.
I don't know if you saw Elon Musk posted an image of a sniper walking on the roof of the White House, clearly a Secret Service agent. And then, I've been to the White House, right? You have too. We've seen it. It doesn't get any more sloped than the center of that roof.
It's absurd. This woman takes us for stupid, the head of the Secret Service. Then we learn from whistleblowers who this is according to Senator Josh Hawley of the great state of Missouri. Whistleblowers claim to him that the majority of the personnel staffing President Trump's security detail that day were not even trained United States Secret Service agents. So who the hell were these people? And then you keep going down the list. Multiple eyewitnesses say they heard shots from the water tower, saw a man in the water tower. I don't want to sound like, the grassy knoll in Dealey Plaza here. I'm just going off of what people said on social media. We were told the Secret Service sniper didn't see the shooter on the roof before he fired the shots, and yet they were able to find him within a few seconds and put him down. We were told the building that the shooter climbed onto was used as a staging location for law enforcement, but then they changed that story and said, it was actually another building. There were only a few buildings on the property. I don't know how you mix that up.
Yeah, this isn't central Manhattan or anything like that, right? There's maybe 6 buildings in the entire periphery of the stage.
I was not there in Pennsylvania that day, but I know, from what I have seen covered on the news, it seems like there's only a small handful of buildings proximal to the fairgrounds that this was held on.
Right.
And then you hear just crazy stuff, but it's not really crazy because it seems to be true. Like 12 million Trump stocks were shorted by a company called Austin Wealth just a week and a half before the assassination attempt. I talked to a friend of mine who works in finance. He said that's a very unusual trade, and basically just left it at that. Fox News is now reporting that the shooter had 3 encrypted overseas accounts. Look, Matt, big claims require big evidence, so I'm not making any extraordinary claims here today. All I'm saying is that I, like everybody else, has no clue what actually happened because the Secret Service is being, extraordinarily secretive. Why haven't they had so much as one press conference? And, for people who don't vote in midterm elections, I will say this. Thank God Republicans have control of the U.S. House of Representatives right now because these people are going to be hauled before Congress to tell us what they knew when they knew it, get to the bottom of this, and if they don't comply, they'll be subpoenaed. If the Democrats were in charge and still had the gavel, all of this, I fear, would be getting swept under the rug right now.
And I still think that they're going to do their best to sweep whatever really happened under the rug. I'll ask you the same question, Dan. I mean, Tom did what he does best, and that's why we love having him on the show. I think he laid it out beautifully why our suspicions are justified. As someone who not only witnessed what we just saw a short time ago in Butler, Pennsylvania, but you lived through the Kennedy assassination. You saw what happened to Ronald Reagan in 1980.
Right.
Are your suspicion levels raised that there's more to the story we're not being told?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think the fact that, there's been a blackout on any information. Anytime you have a mass shooting or a school shooting or something like that, there's immediately a news conference. There's updates. We're given updated information. Here we've got nothing, and there was no news conference. There was not. It's very strange. It's over a week now. Now a story in the Washington Post that came out this weekend in the Washington Post that the Trump campaign had been asking for added assistance and added security, and they weren't getting it. And that the Secret Service had been pulling back and had more and more been using local and regional and state security backup. And also in this story, apparently there was a report that a lot of this was used to protect Jill Biden and the president during the NATO conference. So there's just too many unanswered questions here. And I know there's going to be a hearing, but this woman who's in charge of the Secret Service, Cheadle, what do you think she's going to say? She's going to do what they all do. She's going to give a lot of obscure answers that don't answer anything. And it's an awful situation. Of course, in this kind of atmosphere, this is something we teach in public relations. When you have a crisis, when you have a situation like this, you come out immediately and you tell everything that you know. If you don't know, you say, we don't know this at this time. We're going to get back to you, and you follow up with additional news conferences, statements, whatever.
You circle back, if you will, to use a Jen Psakiism.
Right. But the longer you go on without giving information, the more that breeds rumors and disinformation. That's just the basic rule of public relations in a crisis situation.
So once again, we have to assume they're either incompetent or they're hiding something. And it could be both, right? They could be incompetently hiding something.
Well, why hasn't this woman been fired? You know, Biden doesn't fire anybody. Why hasn't she been fired or called on the carpet?
But Biden thought she was a man. He gave an interview with Lester Holt, and referred to her as a him. Although, that's not proper pronoun usage there. So
yeah, I was just going to correct you, Tom. You got to make sure your pronouns are proper on this program of all places. But it's a fair point. From a public relations point of view, I guess it matters less from a political perspective now that Biden is out of the race, but I don't think just letting her resign was going to be enough from him. I think he needed to fire her, and I doubt he would have. Let's talk about President Trump's response for a second. I went to YouTube after the assassination attempt. I want to say later on Saturday or Sunday. I think like a lot of people, I had trouble sleeping. Not just because, obviously we like Donald Trump and we appreciate what he's doing for us, but just if you're an American, this stuff should leave you unsettled. This is the pass we're at. And I was looking up Ronald Reagan's remarks after his own assassination attempt in 1980. I thought Trump did an excellent job at the convention in how he discussed it. He was calm. He was direct. There were some dramatic pauses. That mention of not wanting to talk about it, I thought humanized him when he said, I don't think that I'm ever going to bring this up again. As a PR expert, Dan, how do you rate it?
Oh, I thought he did excellent, but of course that happened within seconds of the attempt on his life. He put up his fist. I mean, this man is a consummate showman, and he is, having been famous and for a long time and been a celebrity for a long time, he knows how to act in the public arena. And this was so dramatic. It's almost as if he knew the sort of pictures that it would make. And you have to remember, he just felt a high-powered bullet whiz by his ear and take off a little piece of his ear. So right from the start, his reaction...
And they're making fun of the guys, or at least some have. I think Michael Steele made a comment about whether or not, the bandage was appropriate. I mean, these idiots, Tom, wore masks around for how many years to protect themselves against what was essentially a severe cold virus, but they have the nerve to make fun of Trump for having a bandage on his ear after it was nearly blown clear off?
Well, look, according to Joy Reid on MSNBC, stole that from our friend Mark Levin there. She said that, and this is, of course, before Biden dropped out. And by the way, what an extraordinary month it has been. I mean, I think that this might be, granted, the Civil War, when it looked like the country was literally coming apart at the seams, was probably more extraordinary. But I'm not sure that there has been a more extraordinary single month in the history of American politics compared to what we just lived through. I mean,
not in a good long time. Not in the listening, I don't think, of anybody that is alive today.
No, I mean, 68 was certainly extraordinary, but it was a little bit spread out. LBJ announced his not running in March, and that the convention was not until the summer, and there was a lot of time there. This has been a compact month. 2 of the 4 lawfare cases, the sham trials against Donald Trump, have been thrown out by the Supreme Court and a federal judge, respectively. Of course, we have the debate. Let's not forget 1 month ago, we were all conspiracy theorists and liars for saying that Joe Biden was in cognitive decline. The mainstream press actually sat there and tried to gaslight us into thinking that videos that clearly show Joe Biden falling off a stage and stumbling his words were, what did they use? A cheap fake. I don't even know what I don't know what the hell a cheap fake is, but they tried saying that that's what these were. and that we're part of a vast right-wing conspiracy if we believe this. We're all owed an apology because a month later he's gone because of everything that we knew to be true. And they told us, don't believe your lying eyes and ears. I forget your original question, Matt. I was on my soapbox. So.
No, I think you answered it quite well. Look, we are living through absolutely extraordinary times. And at least from my perspective, guys, I think thus far Donald Trump has more than risen to the moment. I mean, Tom, you've worked with I don't know how many dozens of candidates over the years. I don't know how many of them would have had the intestinal fortitude to not only take a bullet, but then immediately, as Dan pointed out, rise up in that moment, attempt to comfort the crowd, recognize that he was in the middle of an historical moment, and that he needed to make a statement, fight, and then head back out on the campaign trail. I'm just going to be honest. I don't think I'm a completely craven guy. I think if I got shot in the ear by a would-be assassin, I'd probably stay inside for a little while.
No, certainly. I don't pretend to. I've never worked directly on either of the president's campaigns. I don't purport to know him well, if at all. I have met the man a couple of times, and he is who he is behind closed doors, the same person as who he is out there on the stage. There's nobody tougher. We have not seen anybody, I think, in the public arena this tough probably since Teddy Roosevelt, right?
Yeah.
And when he stood up and put his fist in the air in front of that flag, that is an iconic photograph that will go down in history with the likes of Iwo Jima and George W. Bush with the bullhorn at Ground Zero. That is just an iconic American moment. You know, Hillary Clinton ran an ad against Barack Obama. It was called a 3 a.m. phone call, and a phone ringing, and she said, "It's 3 a.m., a phone is ringing in the Oval Office. There's a crisis somewhere in the world. Who do you want answering that phone?"
I want the guy that can take a bullet and immediately stand up in the aftermath. That's who I want. I think most listeners to this program probably agree.
Absolutely.
We are running out of time. No, there's no
Yep.
scripting it whatsoever. Dan Cerrucci, Tom Szymanski, thank you so much, my friends, for making time for the program, as you always do. I want to thank producer Phil. I want to thank everyone that listens tonight. We'll be back next Sunday night, 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard. Until then, I mean it more now than ever, even though I say it every week. Stay safe, stay sane, and keep fighting for this country. Fight, fight, fight. It's worth it.
When you need to know, depend on KYW News Radio 103.9 FM.
At least 3 people have been killed and 7 others wounded as gunfire hit a crowd at a planned event in West Philadelphia. Police have arrested a woman in a Thursday shooting that injured a 7-month-old in the Northeast. Israel bombed a Houthi oil facility after a Houthi